Welcome to episode 197 of the Reptile Gumbo podcast.
I'm so much closer to the camera. I was not. You told me you moved the camera.
I did move it closer,
but I feel so close, and I also feel
I wanted to be closer.
In this corner.
I wanted to be so much closer to our listeners.
I thought you were gonna say closer to me.
Nah, I'm good. I'm around you enough. I'm good.
Somebody said something about needing to look cute today, and I said, I got what I need. I don't need to look cute anymore unless I just want to. Sorry, babe.
It's all right. All right.
I don't feel very cute after eating half a bag of potato chips.
So Robert was not feeling good. He was on his way. He was gonna come, but he's under the weather. So hopefully next week. We're creeping up to episode 200, which
crazy.
Which I think is on.
I remember when you talked about starting this podcast, and you were like, "I have this idea. What do you think about this?" I'm like, "Go for it. It'll be great. It's a good hobby for you."
You asked to be on it. Don't act like I begged you to be here.
A guest.
No.
I didn't realize that was going to be a weekly thing.
That's bullshit. You asked to be a co-host on it, and I agreed to it.
I think I felt bad for you because you were.
I could find a co-host.
Like flies.
They weren't. I've gone. Well, I had to go through two others. That's fine. I've lost Robert now apparently too.
You're not going through me because you're stuck with me for life.
Oh God. Anyways. So I think it's the 30th is going to be our 200th episode. I'm going to reach out to some of our previous guests. Again, tell us any guests that you would like for us to bring back, and I'll reach out to them, see if they want to come back. Lewis has any co-host. I may. We'll see how. Let's see how much longer this lasts.
I turned my heat press off and stopped the craft I was in the middle of to come record tonight.
I'm glad we're not going to burn the house down.
I'm just saying.
Sometimes you'll go to bed without blowing candles out.
I mean, it's happened.
Oh, I know.
Shows saved our lives.
Oh,
on the regular.
So anyway, let's go ahead and get some sponsor stuff out of the way. Since Lewis is there, you want to read Lewis's?
I sure will. That is hard.
Isn't it tricky? I do it every week. No problem.
Sorry, Lewis. Lil's Shop of Horrors is a small feeder and pet supply business based in San Antonio, and they regularly schedule feeder meetups around San Antonio as well as other neighboring towns and cities. They offer shipping on their feeder insects, isopods, and are working on starting shipping on their feeder rodents too. All feeders are raised on a nutritional diet that optimizes the health of the reptiles and amphibians that consume them. Be sure to check them out if you are in need of any feeders.
Yes. Lewis said we really underestimated how difficult it would be for people. It's at Lil's.
It's because I also, when I started, I realized this is the first time I've actually read this.
It's the back-to-back S's.
And I'm like, whoa.
No, it's the back-to-back S's. Lil's Shop of. If you feel drunk.
Because you feel like you're slurring your words together.
I feel drunk.
I feel that. I get there.
But yes, check out Lewis at Lil's Shop of Horrors. Especially if you're in the San Antonio area and you need feeder rodents, go there. If you need feeder insects, he can ship to you. Also want to give a shout out to Colossal Constrictors. Not officially a sponsor, but I mean, they've sponsored a crap ton of our giveaways. They sponsored all four of the giveaways in December. They sponsored the giveaway in November. They sponsored all four giveaways in 2 Decembers ago. So Colossal Constrictors, if you need a high quality boa, go check them out. They are on Facebook, and they're also on Morph Market. And they've got some amazing boas up for sale on Morph Market. Luckily I don't have any money, so I can't. I don't have to try and buy any, but I got no money. So
nope.
We'll check them out. Also, VivTech products. Don't forget, if you go use VivTech products and buy yourself a LED UVB bulb from them, you can use code GUMBO22 and save 15%. They also have new lights out. I posted about it over in our on our page. It's I'm gonna mess it up because I want to say halogen, but I know I pulled up before I started this and I didn't.
Look at you slacker.
Oh,
Erica, this is what you've got to work with.
You know what? Erica loves me.
She does.
If you're not buying your bulbs from VivTech, you're wrong.
I messaged her like a week or two ago, and I told her, I said, I was talking to my sister, and I said, hey, you can save 15%, 20%. The air conditioner just cut off.
Yeah.
What? How much did I save with our code?
15%.
15%. Okay, that's what I told her. I said,
are you sure? You don't even remember the story.
I don't.
Anyways, they have new high sun halogen heat bulbs out. So now you can use those new halogen heat bulbs along with your LED UVB bulb from VivTech. And again, use code GUMBO22 and save 15% on all that stuff. Along with all the smart devices they have all the smart plugs, and they have the cameras and all the sensors. Go check out VivTech. Herps Reptile shows. Let's go ahead and do those real quick. This weekend, if you want to go to the frozen tundra of what will be Oklahoma, they are having the show January 13th and 14th in Oklahoma City.
Sean made a big post earlier about the weather.
Sunday is supposed to be
9 degrees
and snowing.
Yes.
So more reasons not to go to Oklahoma for me. Enjoy the cold. Saturday will definitely be there. Sunday, put some chains on your tires because apparently that's a thing people do in the snow. I don't know. I've always lived in the South. We don't have snow.
We shut down when it snows because we are not equipped.
Look, we see a Oreo McFlurry and we're done. That's too close to being a snow flurry. All right, Longview, Texas, January 20th, January 21st. Conroe, Texas, January 27th, 28th. We will be there
at least part of the time.
I don't like that answer.
I don't know answers for you. I don't know.
My goal is to be
our
there.
Kid is getting home from Galveston.
You know what? She can walk.
She might be hitchhiking.
Hitchhike. I don't know. She's old enough now.
I may be needed on Sunday.
I will be in Conroe, Texas.
I'll be there Saturday.
I'll be in Conroe, Texas. It's my birthday weekend.
I know.
And then Corpus Christi, Texas is February 24th, 25th. We may be there. I don't know what we have planned. Baton Rouge is March 2nd, March 3rd.
Joe's birthday weekend.
It's Joe's birthday.
But we'll be here because your dad's in town.
Oh, okay. I'm glad you know that.
Yep.
I don't know that. Bryan College Station. That is March 9th and March 10th over in Bryan College Station, Texas. Rosenberg, Texas. That is our home show, apparently. Neither one of us actually have ever been to Rosenberg.
We actually have. We just didn't realize it. We drove through there one time.
Is it one of those places where you think it's like
right on the other side of Sugarland?
So you think it's Sugarland, but it's not Sugarland?
Correct.
Like you think we live in Pearland, but we don't live in Pearland?
That is correct.
Yeah, it gets weird around here. But Rosenberg, Texas is March 16th, March 17th. And
if you need Girl Scout cookies at the Rosenberg show,
cool.
you need to let us know. Like sooner rather than later. Okay, go.
Slidell, Louisiana, April 6th and 7th. That is the last one I'm going to do. All right, Slidell, Louisiana. Which one? Oh, I saw Sean post, and one of them, U.S. Ark was going to be at one of them. It's either Baton Rouge or Slidell. I think it's Slidell. It's got to be Slidell.
Correct.
You don't know, do you?
No.
You're just guessing.
He's going to have forms at the table this weekend.
Yeah, and then...
But I'm pretty sure Phil is going to
be
in Slidell.
So yeah, go by and see Phil in Slidell.
Because there's a lot of stuff going down in Louisiana and possibly soon.
Yeah, there are some new laws they're trying to... glad we're not there anymore.
It's not good.
All right. I'm thinking I forgot anything. Oh, just real quick giveaway. So our giveaway for the last week of December was that was the digital scale. And our winner, he said we can put it back. So at some point we will put it back in for a giveaway because he said he appreciates winning, but he owns one crested gecko and he assumes that some ball python person would probably enjoy the scale more. I agree. You weird ass ball python people who weigh all your stuff. Stop weighing stuff. Just feed it whatever it is and assume it weighs enough. But with that said, we will be giving the scale away. Also, this month we're going to be giving away a blanket. It is not made yet. But here is the fleece.
It's on my weekend schedule.
I don't know. Oh, it's so dark.
It is.
It is so dark. Anyways, it's got snakes on it. Katie's gonna make a blanket.
I'll take a picture of it.
And we'll post it, and we're gonna give it away. And I'll post what you have to do to win the blanket. But it's got don't hate me. We found this at Joann's Fabrics the other day. It does have ball pythons on it. So I apologize to whoever wins it. And actually, it's got I think a spider morph on there, so even better. So people can really hate on that one. But it's a free blanket, so enjoy your free blanket.
Made with love.
Yeah, that's why I'm not making it.
I make everything with love.
That's why I'm not making it. It would not be made with love.
I always think good intentions for whoever is going to be receiving whatever I make.
So anyways, we will post that. I'll post the question for what you need to answer to enter in for that giveaway. And at the end of the month, we'll do the giveaway for a blanket. Anything else?
I don't think so.
We're going to bring our guest now?
Yeah.
Did I forget anything?
I don't think so.
You sure?
I mean, I'm sure you did.
I'm sure I did. I'll bring it up later, I'm sure. All right, let's go ahead and bring our guest in. Our guests tonight are Rob and Amy Zerkle of Zerkle Reptile Company. How's it going?
Good. Very good. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for coming on. I was excited to have you all on. I told you before we got on here. I know very little about old world rat snakes because they don't fit into what I keep, but you do have rubber boas, so you redeem yourself there, and that's awesome.
Thank you.
I was excited to
Were
talk.
you not nerding out while I was finishing my craft?
We were trying to get their stuff working.
Oh, that's right.
We got them the last minute. I was afraid that I was going to disappoint people, as I do every week. But we got you all on. So tell everybody who doesn't know who you are about yourself, and then we can get into some details there, but go ahead and tell everybody.
Go ahead, boy. I told everybody I was going to let wife talk, and I was just going to flash gang signals.
Absolutely not. Basically, we started out with a pet shop in 1984, and it came with a free boa that came with the store. We were fish people, and through a bunch of strange circumstances, we ended up with two, and one of them was acting really sick and took it to the vet. This was like 80s. Nobody knew. They told us it was going to die. And long story short, she had a bunch of babies. And so started a whole, all this.
Well, we were dealing with a gentleman by the name of John Shanahan at Emerald Coral and Reptile in Florida. And at the time, we retailed boas for like $64. And we're sitting with 30 of them, and we're starving pet shop people. So I got a hold of John. I'm like, what do I do with all these boas? And he put me in touch with Lloyd Lemke out in California. And that's pretty much how I got started. And then we had a customer that came into our store in 1988, told me about a show going on in Columbus. We were there February of 89, and we're their vendors ever since. So that's how we got into the business of reptiles anyway.
Just going to say, I wasn't born in 1984.
I know. People ask how long I've been doing it. I'm like, ooh, longer than we've been married. So.
Almost 40 years.
Yeah, we've been 40 years. So 40 years.
I was born a year later. I wasn't born then. Let me feel young for like a minute.
No. You turned 40 a year before I do. I gotta soak that in.
It don't bother me.
Although this year I forgot how old I turned and told everybody I was a year younger than I actually was.
That's okay. You're allowed.
No, your age when you get over like 21. So you do have.
My mom was hilarious in the car. She was like, "Do I need to show you the calculator and show you the math?" I was like, "No, I'm not really 37 yet." Anyways.
Yeah, I'll turn 39 this month.
No.
Anyways, so it was just a general pet store in 84, not because nowadays you have reptile pet stores, but that was not a thing then.
Yeah, we actually were pretty deep into reptiles in the 80s. I mean, and that was a really fun time because we were getting just tons of stuff that we were getting stuff out of Chile. We saw some of the first Hog Island boas that were imported in the country that were dropping babies at 3 feet. And we got some of the first Solomon Island boas and prehensile tail skinks through Lloyd and Terry Lilly out in California. So we got to see a lot of new stuff and a lot of stuff, sadly, that's not here anymore, not available anymore as well.
Yeah, I'd say there's a lot of things that I don't see. I mean, I got into in the early 2000s, way early 2000s, and there's a lot of things I saw then that I don't see now. Unless you want ball pythons, which I love. I don't have it pulled up, but I do love your line on your Facebook and on your Morph Market where you make fun of ball pythons.
Yeah.
Oh.
We are. Yes.
Yeah.
Is that how you knew they were your kind of people?
Yeah.
Yeah. I tell people all the time, if I was doing this for money and knew how to breed ball pythons, I'd breed ball pythons, but I don't know anything about them other than keeping them alive. I
put a male and female together last year, and then I had eggs at some point. And
nice. Wow! Congratulations!
You're one up on me.
That's the only time I bred them because I wanted to make a banana ball python. I was like, I got a 50% chance of doing that. Bullshit! 3 babies, not a single banana.
Oh no!
We used to get sacks of 100 in out of Africa, and we'd go through them and go, there's an ugly one, there's a pretty one, there's one that's a partial stripe, ooh, and all these times we were probably chucking some kind of whacked out morph.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, it's okay though. but y'all, and we'll get into your collection, but y'all do pretty good because y'all do the weird stuff that, like, if you get a clutch of eggs, is going to sell and doesn't have to sit around in a rack for a year and a half because 70 other people within an hour of you are breeding the exact same thing.
Yeah, to some extent, it's worked out pretty well for us. I got one of the best compliments I've ever gotten in Tinley several years ago. A friend of ours, it was a mutual friend of Don Hampers and ours from Canada, came down to the Tinley show. I hadn't seen Scotty for probably about 10 years. And he goes, "Holy crap, I can't believe you still breed the same cobra food you've bred for all these years." And I go, yes, I do. I still breed this cobra food.
Yeah, but you breed really like that's a joke but the joke is people actually do sell ball pythons as cobra food. Like
king rat too.
Really?
But today, what all the beauty snakes were brought in for cobra food. So the fact that they just weren't considered a valuable commodity, they were just feeders.
Yeah, they're just feeder snakes.
So again, you've been around. I'm not trying to make you feel old, but to bring up a point here, you've been around long enough. We talk about when we talk. No, it's not. I'm saying there's a point. Let me get to it. We talk about there being cycles in the hobby, right? And so now you're on an uptick, especially for beauties. So I see beauties now at shows, and the price on them is not what it was 20, 30 years ago. They're, from what I've seen, they're going pretty well, and everybody wants beauty snakes and some of these weird rat snakes and stuff. So I assume lately it's gone pretty well.
Well, it was a little bit bigger, probably about 8 years ago or so. It got really cool to hate on the ball pythons, and we were sick of seeing ball pythons at the show, and we were really selling stuff for goofy money. My opinion right now, I think the Asian market is slightly overpriced. I mean, I'll take it, but it's like I tell people all the time, I've bred Russian rats and trinket rats when they were $25 a piece and you couldn't give them away. And Mark Bell and I used to joke about giving anybody free Escalapian rats if they bought any other snake. And now I still do the same things, and I sell them for $200, $250, $300 and can't produce enough of them.
Yeah, but feeders are a lot more now.
Feeders are a lot more now. But I think where it separates a lot of people when you look at people who genuinely like the animals that they do is, I used to sell king rats for $85 a piece. Now they're $250, $300. I will still breed them if they go back to $85 a piece. If trinket rats went to $50 a piece, I'll still breed trinket rats. I mean, I like them. It's kind of my thing.
It's funny the market on stuff because I had a litter of rainbow boas a couple years ago, and when I bought my first rainbow boa, it was $125, and it was $125 for a rainbow boa for like 2 decades.
Forever, yeah.
And then all of a sudden, it was like there's $600. I'm like, no one will pay $600, and so I had a litter, and I was like, I put $600 on it, and someone gave me $600. Like that's ridiculous. You should. I mean, I'm gonna take it, but I took it home, and I was like, how the hell did I get $600 for a rainbow? And it wasn't even anything. It was just a rainbow boa.
Well, I tell most people are probably sick of hearing me say it, but I tell people work with what you like. It shouldn't matter if you sell it for $5 or $500. Work with what you like, but you'll have a hell of a lot more fun when you sell it for $500.
Oh yeah, well that one amazed me. And then I sold like $600 and $500. It was easy to sell them too, and it's just so weird. And then I watched there's just so many things like doom roll boas when I got into the hobby were $125 for forever, and then all of a sudden they're like these are $800. Like, all right, look, I like doom rolls boas as much as the next person, but it's not an $800 snake.
Yeah.
We got to stop that. Like they should definitely be more than $125 because it stops the impulse buy, but it shouldn't be $800.
Well, everybody quit breeding and they started doing ball pythons. So all these animals that were super common in the hobby when we started and up until maybe 10 years ago, they've all got pushed to the side by people breeding tons and tons of ball pythons, and they make a great pet. I can't take that away from them. But the variety of things that people breed is really, really been condensed into a very small fraction of what we used to see. Look at every show. I mean, imagine 10 years ago versus today.
Oh yeah. Well, it's weird. Like when I also do sand boas, and a lot of times when I've been to sand boa show at a reptile show, I'm like the only sand boa breeder there. Like there may be somebody with a 1 or 2 on a table they picked up. Yeah. But I'm like that's a common, like that's a great pet snake that
it is.
No one else is. It's just so weird. I mean, I'm not gonna complain if I'm the only one there. It's gonna help me, but I do like see people get them.
I'm a huge Sambo fan.
They're one of the first snakes.
I used to breed them years ago. They're great snakes. Highly underappreciated.
Yeah. So you're in a weird spot with doing rat snakes, especially Asian rats, because I assume it's a weird area of for a long time a lot of it was imports. Mm-hmm. Like so, and then but you're also dealing in an area now where you're doing a lot of captive bred, which definitely price wise you kind of sometimes have to compete with someone selling an import versus a captive bred.
Yeah.
How does that go for you?
Well, a lot of we try to save people from wild caught stuff, but a lot of times you can't because they look at it as a cheap option. Mm. And I think a lot of people unrealistic in their goals when they go that direction. I mean, because a lot of projects that I have, like Coleothignasus flavolineata or black copper rats, those are junk snakes. They're $25 garbage snakes. And when I wanted to get into them, I knew I was going to buy 12. And I knew I was putting 6 right in the freezer. And I was going to get a couple of them probably to make it. And when 2 of them really turned around and did well, they were both going to be males. So, you know, it's a difficult time sometimes to get into new projects. Really right now, probably as breeders of our own, we deal with a lot of pressure out of Europe. Europeans don't seem to be as interested a lot in the old world stuff as we are here, but they breed a lot of it. So a lot of it comes into the country and hits the table on second and third hand markets, which is fine. I tell people, if you knew how much stuff we'd sent to Europe in the past 20 some odd years, I'm not surprised. But for the last few years, oddly enough for us, the last several years, a vast majority of stuff that we produced were going over to the Asian market overseas. And then when COVID hit, it's just absolutely died. I haven't heard from any of my people over in importers from China and stuff about hitting me up for anything.
Well, even the brokers at Tinley.
Or even the brokers that usually walk through Tinley, you know, they're just not there. So now I'm out banging heads with people a little bit more now than I've been lucky enough not to have to do over the last few years. But, you know, a lot of times with some stuff like red-tailed green rats, I mean, there's a few people now that have gotten some that are established and doing well. And now you can almost get some F1s out of them. But when you're dealing with, you know, if you want to breed red-tailed green rats or Jansen eye rats, sometimes you got to go the import route. But you got to understand when you do that, a lot of it's just a roll of the dice. It doesn't mean if you're a good keeper or a bad keeper. If that animal sat somewhere and dehydrated too long before it was imported in, or it was a stale batch of animals from a late shipment or something, you know, sometimes stuff just doesn't work in your favor.
And you're going to have to vet it.
And you're going to have to vet it.
You're going to have to pay the vet bill. So what you think is a cheap animal in the beginning is going to cost you more than a captive born in the long run. By the time you have fecals done and you treat for parasites and whatever else it may have, and then you have to keep it quarantined all that time away from your collection. So there's a definite downside to doing that. Plus, typically wild caughts are very aggressive.
Well, very difficult to settle in and settle down.
But you know they're not taking that $25 rat snake to a vet.
Right, exactly.
Well, but if they don't, they're just going to lose it. I mean, that's short of it. So
and then they say all the world stuff sucks.
Yeah. Because I don't know how many people have told me, well, I think all king rats are really mean. I don't really have one that's mean. They're very food aggressive, but as far as they see your hands, you know, they don't bother you. But
so it's
wild caught, that's a whole different ball of wax.
So it's funny you say that. And I didn't tell you about this. So I have a corn snake in my classroom, and I realized that we're talking about 2 different types of snakes here, very different types of snakes. But she did something that I've never had happen to me before in all my years with snakes.
What?
So I went to get her out of her tank because I was moving it. And so I was going to hold her while I was moving it. And she opened her mouth and turned and put it on my wrist and then turned away from me. Like, she didn't bite me, but it was enough to like.
It's because you don't own enough weird ass snakes like hog noses, which will do that stuff.
Never done that before, and it was like she was wrapped around something in her cage, and I was trying to untangle her, and she just like turned, and I was like, okay, we obviously don't want to come out right now.
You just need to handle more special ed snakes like hog noses, which will just randomly start chewing on anything themselves. Sometimes
it was so. Even Joe was just like, I'm good. I'm not going to hold her. I'll move the cage for you. My daughter was like, nope.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've never had her do that before.
I won't lie. I have been one to like, so in my history with old world rats, I'm always like, yeah, they're mean. My experience has never been with super nice ones. So there was I think I've told the story on. So if my listeners have heard this, tough, you can hear it again. There was a crappy small pet store in our town in Alabama where our college was, owned by this crazy ass woman. Anyways, she was one of those, like, she would get the list and just order random shit off the list. And she ordered like a green anaconda right after like the second Anacondas movie came out. I'm like, what the fuck are you thinking? So one day she's like, "Hey, I got these snakes and we come let them get them out of the bag and set them up for me." Because I didn't work there, but I'd volunteer for because I had reptiles. So like, yeah, sure. I come in, she bought 2 probably 4.5 foot red tail green rat snakes. And they were the angriest snakes I've ever had to deal with. So bad that she put them in a tank and then had to put cardboard around the entire tank because you couldn't leave it uncovered.
Yep.
And then she, like a week later, she sent them back. She's like, "Can you calm them down for me?" It's like, no.
No.
Like, these things are gonna hate people. Like, it's just where you're at with them. I mean, they were snatched out of the wild probably 2 weeks ago, and now you're like, "Hey, someone should own this."
Yep. And I think a lot of people with old world stuff. I mean, if you get old world stuff, some stuff can tolerate a little more heat than others. But if you get a king rat too hot, it's going to let you know it's really unhappy with you and everything you're doing.
Well, that was and we'll get into some of these replies to our questions this week, but that was kind of some of the issues with why people haven't bought old world rat snakes, because it is a temperature thing, right? So in a world where most people's first snake now is a ball python or maybe a boa, and we're keeping things at probably still warmer than we should. When I got into snakes, it was like boas go at 95 degrees.
Oh yeah.
My boas don't like 95 degrees. They are not fans of it.
Nope.
But imagine if you're keeping a boa or a ball python at 90 and then you get into some of the old world rats. That's a completely different setup. But some people don't realize it because they go to a show and they buy whatever it is off of some random table and they assume, well, I've kept a snake, I'm going to keep it the same way. So how do you combat the whole having to reteach people how to keep snakes that have already, like, I've got snakes, I know what I'm doing?
Well, usually I have to tell people, take everything that you know about a reptile and throw it out the window and listen to what I'm trying to tell you here. And actually, wife handles, and I call her wife, so don't get upset. Wife, Amy, handles most of our sales and stuff over the internet. And over the years, particularly with things like, almost everything we sell, if we get a bad vibe from somebody, we get somebody that doesn't want to listen, or somebody that wants to put rubber bows in their 85-degree ball python room or whatever it is, we won't sell it to them.
I don't have to.
I don't have to. Mm-hmm. I got a box for it. It can sit right here. But it is a large amount of education to educate people that there's more than one way to keep stuff. There's more than one way to do temperatures. But if you start looking at a cold collection, which is kind of what I tagged my main room as a cooler collection, you have to change your entire thought process where you have to go smaller meals more often. I mean, if it's like I've got some 8-foot Mullendorf rats or 100-flower rats that can eat, a good sized rat, but at 72 degrees in 3 days, they're going to give it back to me. Mm. So I'm better off, and you're better off, to feed smaller meals more often. In fact, most all of my stuff, when I feed it, you really can't tell it. That's how I feed the majority of my adult stuff. And so you have to kind of wrap your mindset around looking at it from a different angle. When I show people pictures of how we do mandarin rats, and we have a lot of people that complain about how we keep our baby mandarin rat. And I've had pictures where I was showing on our Facebook page where our baby mandarin rats will live in a 6-inch deli cup on the bottom of an unheated floor on a rack at 68 degrees for about 8 months before I'll ever move them to anything bigger.
Or sell.
Because that's what they want.
Yeah.
And so just because you want to keep them a certain way, and I get a lot of that with and it's not a slight against any of the groups, but I don't belong to a single reptile group in social media. I used to try to help, and people go, I can't get my bamboo rat to eat. Okay, well, how do you set up? It's in a 29-gallon bioactive, 6-inch deep substrate. And I'm like, well, how are you ever going to feed it? Because you can't find it. And then when you pick it up, the last thing it wants to do is eat. It's going to run. So I said, you're not going to like what I tell you. Take it out, put it in a 6-inch deli cup, and leave it the hell alone with a water bowl and a little hide box, and it'll eat probably within a week. But
a lot of people want to argue rack systems too, and I keep sandboas, and like that's a snake that I think does amazing. Right? Don't get me wrong, I'm sure you could put a samboa, and people do it in a 20-gallon or 40-gallon tank with tons of hides, but they do really well in a drawer in the dark, and eat really well, breed really well, and they're healthy.
I I hear a lot of debate and a lot of people about, that bitch and complain about rack systems. And, myself personally, and I've tried it. I'm trying it with a couple right now, and I'm not real happy with the overall. I mean, the animals seem okay, but I'm not really feeling the bioactive bug, and that's fine. I'm an old dude. I grew up a tubber, square foot gardener, if you wanted to call it that. But when you try to explain to some of these people, I look at the reptile hobby as being very similar to the tropical fish hobby. You have some people that just love breeding animals, just love breeding the fish. Now, I was a fish breeder before I was a reptile breeder. And you got some people that want fully planted tanks, and, and you got some people that want, biotopes of certain things. Everybody goes about things different. But because that one guy, or because that one farm, or because that one breeder wants to breed angelfish in a 20-gallon tank with a piece of slate, is why you can walk into a Petco and buy an angelfish for $1.99. Same with reptiles. Because the guys like Gary Sipperly and Bill Brandt and Mark Bell and John Mack and Lloyd Lemke and all these guys that I've known for years broke it down that way, is why we can go to a show and go, holy cow, when did Amel corns become a $45 animal? Because they were usually 25.
Well, yeah,
so
and
there's a need for all of it. There's a place for it in the hobby of any way, shape, or form that somebody sees fit. My main thing as a hobbyist is that I want somebody to have a positive experience in the hobby. And a lot of times it's not going to be with one of my animals.
And I'm not afraid to tell people that, I think you need to have something to start with and kind of get your feet wet. And then if you want a beauty snake, definitely we'll help you out with that. But I don't think it's, necessarily a 10-year-old kid's first pet.
Oh, yeah. Well, and when it goes to caging, look, you breed plenty of snakes that would make really awesome display snakes, and a nice big vivarium and all that. But you also have a lot of snakes. And so someone can't expect you to have all of your snakes in a bioactive setup, because as much people are like, it's so much easier. It's really not when you multiply it by 100, at least not in my mind.
It's not, and in a couple of instances, and I'm not saying everybody, and I'm not saying everything, and you can send me hate mail, I don't care. A lot of times to me, it caters, I think, to the lazy keeper. If I don't want to leave shit in my cages. I don't want to leave skin in my cages because some bug in there wants to eat it. I can't do it that way. Now, I will say I like the looks of it. I am looking at more caging for some of the animals. We actually wound up backhandedly going into a second room that we have made a larger baby room, inventory room, and an area where I can breed some of the warmer species I like Barron's racers and Pitus mucosa, and a couple of larger forms. And those animals, and I've got some Jansen's rats now, and those animals I do believe do much better in a cage. I'm not going to beat them to death and throw them in a drawer rack because that's what I want to do.
Yeah,
I think everything about them tells me they want to be in a cage, and I think they do much better in a cage. But now my mandarins and rubber boas and things like that, my mandarins, my adult mandarins stay in about a 28, I'd say about a 28 quart Rubbermaid. I use Cambro boxes. Strongly suggest people invest in Cambro restaurant boxes because they'll last forever.
And they can see you coming.
And they can see me coming. And being an old school herper, I'm still learning all the time. I learned real quick that you don't want old world stuff in opaque front tubs.
Everyone visual. Those are very visual animals.
Right. Yes. And every time, and I noticed when I tried some of them that every time I'd open the tub, they go, take off running. But with a clear front, they see me coming and they're much calmer. So I learn all the time, and I'm always open to change certain things if I deem it necessary. But, I have one goal before I die, I told my wife that I want to have 100 breeder mandarin rats.
Jeez.
Just so I can say, here's 100 mandarin rats. You can all buy them now. I have 100. I'm
You're
done.
well on the way.
Well, I've got about 50 right now. And I think they're great animals, but those things don't want a lot. They don't want light. They don't want heat. Most of the time until, and actually I'm having to relearn with them because we had a slight catastrophe in my mandarin room, Christmas Eve. year before last.
I was gonna bring that. I remember seeing it get posted, and it hurt me on the inside to see it.
But a lot of times, people say, well, I don't like mandarins because they're weak. And I'm like, okay. So we came in from shopping Christmas Eve to about 5 inches of water in our basement floor because a water pipe in the ceiling broke. And that was the coldest room in the house. That room usually stayed about 68 degrees. And I had all of my mandarins in that room with no heat.
And it was about 2 degrees outside.
It was about 2 degrees outside. Every mandarin cage I had was flooded. Half of them were being electrocuted by something. I didn't know what it was.
It's a heat tank.
A heat cable somewhere. Because I don't have heat on them, but the heat cable somewhere. And so when I'm fishing these guys out of 4 inches of 20-degree water or 35-degree water, however cold it was, and you have to keep in mind too, I'm not sitting around with like 50 open cages to put these things in.
Well, they were lifeless. They were so cold. Yeah. They were just lifeless.
And this was an old 40-year-old melamine full thread rack that I'd gotten from Norm Dam, who's a godfather of Hondurans that I've known forever. And of course, melamine and water is a really good combination. That rack took a shit, and all I think I could do was take these half frozen, wet soaked, electrocuted mandarins and throw them right into hibernation. And that's where they. And when it was all said and done, I still had about 10 clutches of eggs last year, and I only lost one animal.
Wow.
Yeah, so they're a hell of a lot tougher than people.
I would say that's a pretty tough little damn snake.
Yeah, it's a tough little damn. Well, I mean, to steal a line out of Hooper's line in Jaws, snakes are perfect little machines. They crawl, they eat, and they make little baby snakes. Of course, he was talking about sharks, but
okay. So I've got to know them because so I teach 4th grade English, but I'm the zoology club sponsor. So we have like 8 different class pets in our classroom. Our bearded dragon pooped today, and one of my kids was like, Miss Lewis, you need to clean that. I said, that just happened and it's gooey. Would you like to take it out? Because I'm gonna let it sit for about an hour and harden up before I take it out. But it smells horrible. And I know how corn snakes smell. Hog noses are horrendous. So do the old world rat snakes, because I don't really know a whole bunch about them because we don't have any, but do they smell horrible when they go to the bathroom as well?
No, they don't tend to be. I mean, you'll get some repercussions like on, happy, exciting chick day here. That loosens stools a lot.
Well, the worst thing they do is they like to poop in their water bowl.
Yeah, they do like to crap. Which is nice. I appreciate it.
But it really smells terrible.
Yeah, it smells really bad. But for the most part, I used to breed indigos, and they're nothing at all like it.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, we bred indigos in our bedroom.
That was awful.
It's true love.
That's one. So that's okay. I do want to get in some of the questions here because we're going to bring up some of these points as we talk about them. But the indigos are one of the ones where like I want an Eastern indigo so bad, but I know myself. And the way it works does not fit how I keep snakes. There's a reason I keep boas. They eat once, they shit once. It's a great system. Mm-hmm. And then like my corn snakes, they eat once, they shit 4 times. It's annoying as hell.
Yep.
So let's go into the question. I'll read the question and then I'll go through all the answers and then we'll go back and we can visit on them. But the question was, have you ever owned an old world rat snake? And if you haven't, why not? I think I misspelled haven't. Maybe I did. Is there an E in haven't? I totally misspelled
100% spelled that wrong.
Not Facebook's fault for not telling me.
But I also never check your posts. So I probably could have been better co-host.
I was supposed to this is at 8:15 at night, so I probably wasn't paying attention.
What time?
8:15.
Oh.
I was probably watching a game or something. Anyways.
Ready for bed.
So our friend Danielle says she hasn't because just doesn't have the opportunity, but she hopes to someday. Then our buddy Jason Miloradovich is a boa guy. He like me is a sand boa guy. He has Russian sand boas and rubber sand boas, and we have Calabar burrowing boas. Then he also does some of the other smaller boa species out of Central America. Melissa Fujimoto said, "I love old world rat snakes and rat snakes in general. They have such this is a long one. Okay, they have such distinct personalities, not just hungry like some colubrids. I'm looking at you, king snakes. I'm going to mispronounce this. Shrink out. Yep, that's it. From you guys. Won't even strike if I put my hand in for maintenance. They're so intelligent, easygoing, curious little snakes. My God, freaking colubrid people and their damn scientific names. Atriceps.
Oh, Atriceps, yeah.
Yep.
Royal diadem rat. Yeah.
Huh. See, that's another thing. It was like 5. I don't think people realize how many freaking rat snakes there are
There's
when you start getting into them.
There's a bunch. And there's a bunch that
Your
still should be. Well, that's the one thing that kind of helped us in Tenley because Tenley had started with the health permit and you have to list all your names, all the scientific names of the animals that you have and stuff. And it's always been my understanding that a Latin name is never wrong. It can be out of date, but it's never wrong. So it's amazing how many Elaphae I have on my table in Tenley.
A lot.
A lot.
Really sort of.
I still miss corn snakes being Elaphae because it was just funny saying Elaphae gattata. I miss that.
Yeah.
Melissa also said, don't get me wrong, some individuals are spicy for sure. All of mine stopped being so defensive by the time they're past the juvenile age and realize I'm not going to eat them. I really enjoy having an active snake that uses the entire enclosure, has really neat behaviors, and eats well, and is visually stunning and great for handling.
That's all the attributes of Asians.
Well, some. There are some Asians that are much more handleable than others. Yes, I will agree with Melissa.
Carl England says he has rhinos and Ridley eye. Both are incredible. Rhinos are neat. I like rhinos.
Rhinos are neat. They're extremely water orientated.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've had them eat 60 degrees laying in a water bowl.
Jeez. That's like well, we'll get into rubber boas later. That's another weird ass snake. Jessica Coleman said, mostly because since I'm on the rescue side, I don't usually buy animals. Not that I'm against it. I'm not. I always just have so many that adding more on purpose seems like work, and was going to purchase a reptile. It would be another monitor. Ooh, that's more work than I'm willing to do.
Yep.
Also, I need to point out to anybody that heard, you see how she said she was a rescue and doesn't go looking to buy animals? Stop fucking posting on Facebook your shopping list as a rescue. That's not how that works. You're not a rescue if you're asking for animals.
I agree.
We
see that a lot.
Angel Villalobos said the temperament is why they don't have them. My mentor has a few Elaphae carinata. And Lord, those things are not nice. Ideally, I want a king rat or a tiger rat. And for the mandarin rats and the likes, the temperature requirement isn't the easiest. They're in Florida, so it's harder for them to maintain the cooler temps.
Well, actually, like mandarins probably work okay down there if you want to put a vivarium in your living room.
Yeah.
With no heat on it. They'd probably be thrilled.
My house is 68 year round.
Yeah, they'll be able to live in our house, no problem. Because I don't understand people with heated snake rooms. Like a lot of these people, when we get to them, the problems with temperature, and I'm like, no, my snake room is air conditioned. I'm fat. I sweat a lot. There's no way I'd go in there and clean cages if it was sweating my ass off.
I'm old and I'm fat, and I don't want to sweat anymore.
Yeah, it's not fun.
No, I used to do a lot of boas and used to do a lot of pythons. I really like them. And look to do some again sometime. There's some I want to work with I never have, but it's down the road.
I just get cranky. Like we lost power at school the other day in a storm for like an hour at the end of the day, and I'm like, it is hot. Can we just sit somewhere and read a book? Like we don't have to do anything else today, guys. And that's what we did. 2 kids took a nap, and everybody else read a book. I was like, I don't want to move around anymore.
Oh. Yeah, egg laying season. I sweat a lot more if my eggs get anywhere above 80 for any amount of time. They drop down 60, 65 for a day or two. I don't care, but above 80 worries me.
Well, we kind of cheat here in Ohio because when it's hibernation time, we just turn off all the lights and crack the window, and we're good.
Nice.
My stuff's not going down till next week. I'm way behind the market, but don't care.
But that's the weather here for some weird reason. It's kind of shifted where winter is starting much later now than in the past.
Well, that's where I've mentioned in the past about brumation for certain things, and here and there people are like, yeah, just put it in a room and open the window or do this, but I'm like, that doesn't work for us here because this week it will probably get down into the 30s at some point, but the week after it could be 75 degrees
until this next week coming up. So
I noticed that I was getting some a lot of issues I wasn't happy with several years ago with things like small clutches and functity issues and stuff along those lines. And I kind of looked at my schedule, and I'm like, I'm trying to put stuff down in December. And Christmas time, half the time we're running around with windows open and shorts on, and it's 55, 60 degrees, and my stuff wants to eat at 55, 60 degrees. So, you know, I just pushed it back last year and had a really good year last year by starting a little bit later. So that's what everybody's going to sleep next week, because the high one day next week's supposed to be 12.
Yeah.
So
Jeez.
everybody,
That's nights and 12-degree days.
yep.
I'll pass on that. That's too
Holy
cold.
crap. And here I'm like, we got a low next week with 24. You've got to get the house ready.
My sister lives in Florida. She's the same way. 50 degrees cracks me up.
A few more on here. Laura Vincel, who's in the chat, says, I've kept a number of Asian rat snake species: mandarin, coxeye, Climacophora,
Yeah.
rhino, Russian, and Taiwan, and a few European species, leopard and ladder. Loves them all. And then we had some, let's see, Colubrid Dad says that's the only way to, I mean, it's in the name, so they obviously had them. Copperhead Reptilia says, I keep 7 species, and I asked what were they? Thai bamboo rats, twin spotted mandarins, Ridley eye, Russian, Japanese, and Chinese king rat. Animal, no, that says, man, people with weird names. And anyways, this person says it's only a few a matter of time. I'm just seeing what else we got. This person says, why not? It's because they're an idiot. That's why they haven't owned any. Yet for me, I know it's it's a history of just seeing imports, and they all hate me and want to kill me, and so that's my only experience. But also they don't fit my. I'm a lazy keeper. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a lazy keeper, and I know it. That's why boas are great for me, because they can be lazy with me. The worst I have is like my Louisiana pine snakes. They shit kind of a lot, so I gotta watch them. And then I've got a couple of king snakes. But all that stuff also does well at my temperatures. The only really weird ones that I have that temperature wise are the rubber boas.
Right.
But you know, I've got a speckled king and a Mexican black king. They're fine at whatever temperature. And I've got pine snakes and corn snakes. They're fine at whatever temperature. There's no requirements there.
Well, you got room to probably try a handful of different ones that can handle a little warmer temperatures. I mean, Japanese rat would probably do real well for you. And
they're really sweet.
And I'm a huge fan of Taiwan beauties.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think a bull snake can put away some wasted food, try a Taiwan. You don't have anything to put waste when you got Taiwans and king rats in your collection.
And they're beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I like boas. I never have to worry about feeding wise with boas. Like there's another thing. Well, with Sambos, it's weird. So Sambo is the only time they stop feeding is it's males, and it's for about 3 months. They only want one thing. They don't want to eat. Which is why I was always laughing Facebook groups when someone freaks out about their Sambo and not eating. I'm like, is it a boy? Yeah, you're okay.
Yeah, we get that a lot with rubber boas. I mean, like I said, I'm actually, and you know, I've been kind of leaking it out there over the last couple of years. I'm kind of trying to phase my rubber boas out. Most of mine are getting so old, and I'm not getting litters like I was. And to be honest with you, I've bred them so long, I'm kind of looking to move on to something else. But rubber boas,
enough of them out there.
Yeah, I put enough of them out there. Russ Cormack's doing really well with rubber boas. Hopefully he picks it up, and a couple other people have got some going. But I'm happy to talk to anybody that needs any help or assistance. But if you're going to breed rubber boas, like all our babies are usually born very late summer and fall, and we don't even feed them. Just put them right into hibernation.
That's what I've heard a lot of people say is they go straight into brumation with those things. That
you're wasting your time trying to feed them. And rubber boas are lazy, and they much prefer frozen thaw stuff. I've taken wild caught rubber boas from Oregon, which is where about one of the last places you could get them until they've shut them down here the last few years, I think. And I've had wild right out from under the bush rubber boas take frozen thawed like they've been doing it their whole life.
So I've talked about my rubber. I had 2 pairs. So I've got one female, and then I've got a pair. I bought a pair from y'all. That was the first rubber boas I ever got. I grew up wanting one so bad because of the Audubon Field Guide
Oh, I
book.
didn't know you got it from them.
Yeah. So when you open it up, there's this pretty like olive green rubber boa in it, and my entire life I was like, I want that snake, and it was a dream. And then 3 years ago, I finally got a pair from y'all, and Katie she was there when I opened the box. I've never been happier in my entire life, and that includes our wedding. And so
I'm used to it. It's cool.
And then so I got them, and
He
then
snuck the snakes into our wedding vows. And I'm totally interrupting you. So yes, go ahead and complain about it. When we got married at the Dauphin Island Estuarium in Dauphin Island, Alabama, because I'm originally from Mobile. And we got married on the end of the pier, and all of our family, with the exception of like our immediate family, they were all like back and forth. So they didn't hear it. So we're on the end of the pier and we're saying our vows, and it's like, what's mine is yours and yours is mine, and da 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 da. And he repeats the line and he goes, except for the snakes. And I just busted out.
It's legally binding.
Photograph.
It's legally binding. They're mine.
Of me laughing in the middle of our vows, and nobody else heard him but me and the justice of the peace. Like we were the only two that heard what he said, and because he mumbles, he goes, "I'm not even going to go there. I don't even know what you're talking about." Like because he didn't know that James bred snakes.
You got to cover your ass. That's legally binding, Katie. Those are mine. You can't take them.
Funny.
Oh, how funny.
So funny.
But so I got that pair, and then I think like a year later, I found someone else that had like 2 pair, and a friend wanted a pair, and so we bought them. But that was the weirdest snakes I've ever gotten, and they came in. It was not obviously a professional breeder. It came in like a fish filter box, like they had bought a filter for a 20-gallon tank. They still had the box, and so they were inside of deli cups inside of that box, packed with paper. It was the weirdest. Anyways, they came alive. We were good.
That's interesting.
Yeah. But I've had them for 3 years. Like I said before we got on here, I've talked about before, I lost my male. I was putting him through rhumation every year, and then I brought him out and he was fine. He was eating, and then he just died. And it's one of those things sometimes just die. If you keep enough snakes at some point, it happens. But yeah, I've got to get more rubber boas. I want, like the way that you want 100 mandarins, I will take an entire rack of rubber boas.
Well, you will never be overstocked in baby rubber boas, that's for sure.
No, that I remember getting them from you. They popped up, and like I think I messaged like immediately because they sell so quick.
They do go fast.
I'll never forget when he told me, he was like, I found rubber boas. I was like, oh God.
I freaking love them.
And then every day that first year that they were brumated.
So brumation was rough for me. I brumated them, and I checked on them 20 times a day
at least,
because it's so for people that don't own rubber boas, they're a weird fucking snake, especially for someone who owns sand boas. And I'm like, these things, I keep them at 90 degrees and they're happy.
Meanwhile, we have these with ice on the box.
Well, yeah, the boxes. I bought a wine cooler, and so I use the wine cooler to brumate them, and I put them in the box, and the box has ice on the outside of it. They're just like cruising around, still peeing. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? Stop moving.
Yep.
Oh God.
I mean,
that was the funniest.
There was ice starting to form on the inside of the box. I'm like, yeah, this is cool. I'm gonna keep moving. It's fine.
Like when we finally get babies, I think that's the only thing that's gonna top.
They won't sell though.
Season.
I won't sell any.
Oh, I know you won't.
They won't. I don't know how many litters it will take before I sell a rubber boa, but I don't know the number.
I think
they're a lot of fun, but they've got that name attached to them, which makes a lot of people not want to listen to how you take care of them. Boa.
Oh, it was very weird. One, putting them in a cooler and letting them just freeze. Two, for most of the time, I've kept them like in a shoebox, in a closet. They're not even near a rack. Right now, they were tricky trying to get back on food, but they're in the bottom of a rack that is all of my other colubrids, so it's pretty cool. And they've got like 1.5 inches thick of cocoa bedding and sphagnum. Also, they're nowhere near the heat. Mm-hmm. But my female from y'all, I'm telling you earlier, is a pig. I can feed her pinkies nonstop. And so that's another thing that's fun. Is like I'll just throw like a handful of pinkies in there. I'm like, y'all are nest raiders. Enjoy your handful of pinkies.
Well, when Lloyd Lemke invited us out to learn how to be snake breeders back in the late 80s. And we went out there, and he and I went collecting, just looking for rubbers. We didn't send anything back then, but we were just running around, and he's showing me stuff. And he was very fit, and I wasn't, and he was trying to kill me. But we did have some fun. But we did find a couple of baby rubber boas, and it was interesting because they puked up small lizard eggs.
Oh, wow.
They puked up about 6 or 8. Must be a type of fence swift, scalopers of some sort out there. And I always thought that was kind of cool. And that was my first indoctrination with rubber boas, was finding them with Lloyd out there.
What do you think is the reason? Because I've never understood it. You know, again, I like all boas, but I live in North America, and I'm amazed that we have one of the coolest boas, and like no one owns them.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think that they're not as popular as they? I feel they should be, but they're not.
I think a lot of times, a lot of people look at boa as being a penile extension.
Yeah,
Thing that looks like an earthworm, don't cut it to most ladies, and so I don't think they've ever caught on in popularity. I think that their low production doesn't really attract a lot of people. I mean,
They're doing it for money.
Yeah, people that have gotten into it more for money. I actually get into projects more, and like a couple of people mentioned, what will fit in my system. You know, if it's, you know, I'm too old to try to jam square pegs into round holes anymore. And rubber boas fit right in, you know, to what we do, being cooler, loving animals. And I don't really know, because they're not big. They are a little quirky. You have to really change your entire thought process to wrap your head around the care and keeping of a rubber boa. And I think that scares a lot of people off. We don't help a whole lot, because we tell just as many people that get a hold of us wanting to buy them that you don't want them.
Well, if you tell me you're not going to hibernate it, you're just going to keep it awake all year, and I know it's just going to die. It's going to lose weight and just be miserable. I'm not going to sell it to you, because I'm sentencing that snake to death. I mean, I don't make that many, and I don't want to send one I know they're just going to kill it, because I don't have to sell it. Rob has a job. You know, the animals are something that we do because we enjoy it.
And this is the first year I haven't brumated them, because they kept eating. I was like, okay, well, you're gonna keep eating, because I mean they are.
You probably northern Callies, I would say. That's what we produce the most of. And they'll until they get sexually mature, at about 4 and 5 years old. And once that happens, like most of our males, they're done in October.
Halloween, they're done.
They're not going to eat again. Forget it. And I don't, you know, I keep them up. You know, you're just going to have to gut it out with the girls. And they probably really won't really start eating well till maybe May or June.
Mm-hmm.
But the key with rubber boas, most problems people have with rubber boas is in the males, because they have such a short active feeding season. It's about 3.5 months. And so in that period of time is when I will separate the males out, and I will try to put as much calories in those males as humanly possible. Or what happens is, if you don't, you know, then the next year they're maybe a little thinner, and then the next year they're a little thinner, and then third breeding season you'll lose them.
Well, that's the other weird thing about them is, you know, it's definitely not a snake you can get into. Like, all right, I'm gonna get the, you know, ball pythons. I'm gonna get them and breed them in 18 months.
Right. No.
That's not gonna happen with these. These are a long-term thing when you get them as a baby. And you know,
yeah, we've got a couple that are 30.
Really?
We got, actually, the way that I set gravid females up, we learned from a gentleman by the name of Bob, who used to collect them up in Washington. And Washington rubber boas are smaller and darker, got a little more of a yellow belly on them as a whole. And some of the first ones I got from him, like back in the early 90s, they quit producing a couple years ago, but they'll just live out their days here. But, you know, they're a lot of fun. I mean, when you get to the point where you're wanting to breed them, and there's a little secret for all you rubber boa breeders out there. Best way I found to set up gravid females is take you about a 15 to 20 long aquarium, stack egg crates up at one end, and put a light over top of the egg crates with about a 15, 20 watt bulb in it. And the females thermoregulate themselves up and down, in and out of that egg crating. And
like working through a stack of rocks or something in the wild.
But it's much easier to keep clean and keep tabs and find your babies.
And not get crushed.
There you go.
Yes. I'll have to try that in 5 years when they're finally ready. But
yeah, Bob told me that, so I can't take credit for that. And it's worked out well for me.
Yeah.
The only other animal that we have that's worse than rubber boas, it's like watching grass grow, or Mullendorf rats or 100-flower rat snakes. They're a 6 to 7 year sexual maturity project.
Jeez.
How long do they live?
They're out of Southeast Asia. But
No,
they're
what's their
Mhm.
lifespan? Like if it takes 6 to 7
I
years
would-
to be sexually mature?
I would say that they can easily get into the 30s.
Okay.
But
That's not bad.
back in the 80s and 90s, they used to import them, and they would remove gallbladders out of them, and most all of them would die when they came into the country. So it took a very long time to get any of them established here.
Why? Like
So,
they just took the gallbladder out?
Yep.
And they
had
could do it really swiftly and carefully, and you couldn't even see there was an
they
incision.
go in between the scales and
Oh wow.
on Mullendorfs and Mandarins primarily, and that's why they would bring them into the country and sell them for $25-$30.
You can just assume, Katie, that if it's something in Asia and they're taking out a body part,
Okay, they're eating
they think that it
Okay.
helps their penis get
I
hard.
was
That's
like-
always the
I'm like,
go-to.
why would you take it out of the snake? I'm so confused.
Just assume it's penis related.
I'm like, is there a bug in it or something that you don't want to transfer? Good
Nope.
Lord.
Oh, they have, yeah, they have
They
all
used to eat
kinds
it,
of
yeah.
aphrodisiac things that they
Okay. I'm
So
picking up what you're laying down.
any aspiring Mullendorf breeders out there, I suggest you do Mullendorfs very similar to mice. You get you a pair, wait about 2 years, buy you another pair. About 2 years, buy you another pair. Because Murphy's Law, you're going to spend 7 years to raise those animals up. And something's going to happen, and your female's going to die. And you're never going to find a lone female. And if you start raising another one, now your male's going to be 15, 16 years old by the time that female gets old enough and big enough to breed.
Oh.
So I think if you start them, stagger them out there, you won't be out of the game when something happens. Because, you're dealing with a live animal, and stuff happens. Shit happens.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
Murphy's Law is a bitch.
or Japanese king rat.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, Japanese king rats. We imported the first Japanese king rats, the Younganensis, into the country a handful of years ago. And we kept a couple pair and sold a couple of pair. They were the first ones into the country. We had some problems here and there, but we raised a pair, put them together, and they bred. She blew up, looked great, and rolled over and died on her anniversary.
Yeah, that sucked.
No,
Oh.
but luckily, the gentleman who's a friend of mine that I sold the other pair to was the first one to breed them in the United States, actually breed them in the United States.
And he actually gave me a pair,
Yeah.
so that was really nice of Dave.
That's good.
Aw.
Yeah,
I-
it was.
I talk on your time. I feel like people should talk about the negatives more in the hobby. We're a hobby where a lot of people are afraid to talk about the negatives of stuff, but I think that people coming into the hobby need.
It happens.
Well, yeah, like so I had a sand boa I was expecting, I think it was like a month ago, where I was expecting babies. I walk in there one day and I just find a pile of infertile ovums. I'm like, oh, that was a waste. And
Yeah.
then I had a female die on me. She was pregnant,
was rough.
and then was about to burst. And I come home and
Like we went out of town for the weekend and came
Oh.
home and could smell it when we opened the door.
it was one of those weird ones where sometimes you see when they grab their I assume they're grabbing their heart. It looks like they're grabbing their heart with their mouth. They come around and they bite themselves.
Right. Yeah.
I come in, she's biting herself. I'm like, God, I was expecting to come home to babies, not a dead snake. And so that killed me.
It's part of it, and it's part of dealing with living stuff.
And you don't like it, but you have to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
So here's a question. Just because you guys have kind of seen a rotation of things in the hobby, and this is actually something we should start asking people. Have you seen any type of a pendulum with people talking about negative versus not talking about the negative? For example, like my co-teacher's husband just got over COVID. And another coworker said, if this would have been 2 years ago, we wouldn't even be wanting to be in the same room with somebody. But now we're like, oh, it's just like the flu and blah, blah,
I
blah.
imagine in the 80s, people were far more likely to tell you what was going
Has
on.
there ever been more of an open situation with let's share the negative, or was it just kind of like a vent fest?
was a lot smaller community in the 80s when we started. We were just kids, and Don Hamper took us under his wing. He was here in Columbus, and through him, we met everybody that wrote all the books and started all the shows. And so we kind of grew up with this. And they were really honest about things that happened for them and things that worked and things that didn't, and were really gracious to share with us. So I have no problem telling you our successes and our failures because they aren't all successes, obviously. And when you deal with live animals, things just happen, whether you're breeding horses or birds or fish, it just happens. Sometimes pairs don't cohabitate. I had a male king rat eat a female. I mean, not something you want to happen, but they were together. I got a phone call. I turned around and he had her half down and stuffed and she was dead. I mean, and so it happens. I mean, that was a one and done. So now if we're breeding something for the first time, we're in the room. And if you hear a tail slapping or somebody doing something, you're right over there getting a beady eye on it, seeing what's going on.
The king rats happened because I let her put them together.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I've had that happen with Sambos. I put a male Sambo, and then Sambos aren't ones to do that, but I put a male in, and I guess I didn't wake the female up enough before I put them in. And as soon as I closed the tub, I heard wham, wham, wham. I'm like, what the fuck's happening? And I open it and she's out. I'm like, what are you doing? Don't eat. Stop it. So we got her off of them and they were fine. And she never tried to get, I think she just, something moved next to her face. And if you've ever owned Sambos, they strike whatever comes near their head. They don't, like, I love them, but they're not a smart snake.
That's much the same with the old world stuff. I mean, particularly breeding season is about the only time that wife will ever see me use a hook. And, I will touch somebody and, because if you can survive the first onslaught when you open up an old world cage, because they want to eat first and ask questions later. They're not mean. They just want to eat first. And so, I'll tap and push them with a hook, let them know, because I don't use a hook at all when I'm feeding. And so the only time they get a hook is, hopefully, I kind of tag snakes as being very Pavlovian by nature. They're action-reaction animals. Mm-hmm. So I'm hoping by touching them with a hook, they realize it's not time to eat. So when I send that female in, she doesn't become the main course. And I've not had a problem with it. Mm-mm.
Yeah, it's always scary. Like I said, even putting things I don't typically like. I don't understand people that breed like some of the Australian pythons. That scares the shit out of me. Like putting blackheads or womas together. I'm like,
sausage.
Yep. I loaned a pair of carpet pythons to a friend of mine, or two pair of carpet pythons, and I can remember talking to Bob Clark years ago at the IHS, and he was pissed at that time that he wasn't breeding carpet pythons. He wasn't having any luck. And I always combated the males a little bit before I'd introduce the females. And I produced tons and tons of carpet pythons. But I stood there. And I loaned this friend of mine a couple of pair, and he put males together and then left. And when he did come back, one of them looked like sausage links had been just sliced.
And when he healed that way, so he had
like sausage links.
He looked like links of sausage. He was terrible, but I mean, he was a good snake. He was very scarred up.
But certain ones that are known snake eaters, like king rats, I do check them quite a bit. If she survives and he's, because you definitely, after you've done it a while, you can tell, is this animal showing you I'm interested in breeding or I want to eat her.
Well, the males are a lot bigger too.
And the males are a lot bigger, which creates another problem when it comes to king rats. It's a lot like Eastern indigos. I mean, the males will horrendously outsize the females.
If you're not careful.
I mean, I fight harder probably to keep my males smaller than unleashing them. And, in a big cage or out in the wild or whatever, female can get away from it. But in a smaller cage or tub, that male will just peel her, just grind her right to the, it's ugly.
Well, it's funny. It's the opposite for everything I breed. For everything I breed, the female is always massively huge. And they're small. So I tend to keep my male red tail boas. Or as people get pissed off, common boas, but fuck it, they're red tails because they've been red tails my entire life. When I put them together, I keep my males pretty small. I try to keep them 4 foot or smaller, eating medium rats. Like that's about where I want them.
The analogy that you use to explain that though is still my favorite.
Which one?
Because you're like, well, if you think about it, if you're big and heavy and overweight, you don't necessarily want to get the job done.
Well, I remember my first pair of
so funny.
I bought my first adult pair of boas. I bought when we were in college. I ordered them. Who was it? It was Rob Stone, I think. I got them from. I didn't know him at the time. Found out later. But it was 2 big cardboard boxes taped together when I got it in. It was supposed to be a 5 foot female and a 4 foot male.
Didn't it say frogs?
And it said frogs on the outside of it, and they were taped together. And it was, it was like 40 pounds of frogs.
This was like 20 years ago.
Something like that. Yeah. So I cut open the box and I started opening up. And first I take the female out. All right, it's definitely over 6 foot female. And I take the male out, and he's well over 5 foot. I'm like, okay, we're a foot bigger than I thought. But I was like, this will be fine. And I had them for a while, and I'd put them together, and a damn thing would happen. I'm like, what the fuck? And I'm like, this is definitely a male. And then finally, I got another male later, and I raised him up, and he's fairly small. And I'd put him in there straight to it. And I was like, yeah, fat males don't like to breed. That's why I tell people all the time, you don't want, if you're breeding, keep your male boas or whatever it is on the smaller end. Yep. They're more likely to try to improve themselves to the female.
Well,
just makes me laugh.
Theory behind a lot of things. In fish, it's quite common. But, and I've noticed it more over the last 5 or 6 years when I started kind of taking a look at it, that in fish, there are things that are called sneaker males. Mm-hmm. Small males, they're sexually active. They're usually smaller, not as colorful as the other males. And while the other dumbass males are out there kicking each other's ass, he runs around and sneaks around and breeds all these females to help ensure genetic diversity. And I've noticed that a lot in some snakes, primarily in like house snakes and a lot of the Coleothygnasus and even some of the beauty snakes, that you'll get a very undersized male, but when you flip it over, you're like, God damn, his tail is huge. He is sexually active. He's hanging and ready to bang.
Well, it's like
it's a lot smaller than the female that there is. They'll still get the job done.
They get it done.
And they may never grow as big as the other ones. I have some of them that have never gotten as large as some of the other animals that I have.
And he throws them in and goes, good luck.
Yep, good luck.
I like
something I would do.
I like the garter snake. I'm going to Manitoba at some point to see the damn
Maybe
snakes.
that's what we'll do for our 20th anniversary.
But I love the males that come out
5
late.
more years, babe.
Yeah, I love the males that come out late, and so they'll end up smelling like females. So all the other males try to rub up against him, and then once he's warm, he's like, all right, now I can go have sex. I love that. It's
had my own garter snake story like that. So when we owned our pet shop, one day Rob was sick, and I went out in the backyard and to take the garbage out, and there was a big hill behind where they had a culvert, and they had dug out to make the shopping center, and there were probably 10,000 garter snakes rolling down that hill in beach ball sized balls. I had never seen anything like it, Eastern garters, and it was just amazing. These big giant balls of garters were rolling down this hill under the parking lot. And I had just taken out how big is that garbage can?
40 gallon.
So I had a 40-gallon Rubbermaid garbage can, and I rolled one of those balls in it. And I went in that store and I called Rob and I said, get over here quick. This is the coolest thing I've ever seen. And that garbage can was like more than half full of just garter snakes. Oh
my gosh.
And when he got there, a lot of them had dissipated, but there were just thousands of them. They were denting around that culvert that was sticking out of the ground up high. And there were just thousands of them. And it was super cool. So I would love to see the Manitoba snake pits because I had my own little mini version, and it was super cool. And we do garters.
She does garter.
That had to smell horrible.
I hate garters.
They're not. The smell's not so bad. They're just very labor intensive.
They're another one that's kind of like I've been trying to tell a lot of people. Like there's a lot of people panicking about the hobby. A lot of people getting out of it. A lot of people saying, I'm selling all my ball pythons. And you have to be real careful, I think. And I think this year coming up needs to be a year in which, maybe we don't breed as much stuff as we normally do. Maybe if you got 300 female ball pythons, you're not going to breed 300 female ball pythons. And garter snakes are the same way. One year, wife had a fantastic year on garter snakes. I mean, she probably had 450 baby garter snakes. But that was like 2.5 hours every day, chopping up pinkies, chopping up worms, making sure they didn't eat each other. And we still lost our ass on them because we overproduced what we could really theoretically take care of because they're so labor intensive.
Well, it's feed one day and then water the next. But even when you're feeding, I mean, they try to eat each other. It just gets, it's kind of overwhelming. So yeah, it's very labor intensive.
Yeah, that's another group of snakes I see where I'm like, that'd be cool to own. But again, they don't fit what I do. Like our friend had some on our table. I don't know what type they were. They were green and blue. They were amazing looking. I was like, that they were lake something. I don't know.
Oh, Lake Chapel.
Yeah. Brittany had them on her table.
And
I'm like, those are amazing.
I like them. They get big.
Yeah. But I don't they speaking of shitting a lot, my God.
Yes. Never stop.
Yeah, I mean it's great. They eat everything, but I'm a rodent. Like it's easy for me to get frozen rodents out of my freezer and thaw them out and feed everything to mice.
Right.
I don't have to deal with fish or parts of frogs or parts of whatever else I got to feed them.
Yeah.
So I don't do it.
But and that's another thing. A lot of these oddball species, I think people need to try to educate themselves a little more on the natural history of the animals. I used to breed a lot of desert species of stuff. I love long nose and glossy snakes, and you give me a snake that only 3 people in the United States give a shit about, and I'm all about breeding it. But a lot of that stuff breeds in hibernation. So a lot of times you have to think outside the box too when it comes in hibernating time. So.
And talking about knowing the natural history and keeping, and we talked about cages versus racks. One snake that I've always loved that I'd want to keep, I don't think I can, just because I know the behavior and how they act. Any of your racer species, like I love buttermilk racers. Like we moved to Louisiana, I moved there in 2007, and I'd seen like drawing pictures and field guides of a buttermilk racer, and it's blue, and I'm like, there's no such thing as a fucking blue snake. And the first time I found a buttermilk racer in the wild, and that blue and that white speckling, I was like, this is the coolest looking snake on earth.
You had those red, fantastic.
Oh, they're coach whips.
Yeah, the coach.
The coach whips, yeah. Well, in the same thing, the coach whips, like the pink coach whips, and all that. But there's such a active snake, like they're not. And I've heard people to say that like they don't like to be in glass tanks because they want to go and they can't go.
Well, it definitely uses would prefer a lot bigger cage than a lot of people would want to give them.
Yeah. And so that's a problem. You know, I think a full grown coach whip probably needs like an 8-foot cage, which may be overkill for people, but as much as they move.
Yeah. They would use it all.
Yeah. And see, someone would look at a coach whip curled up, an 8-foot coach whip curled up, or a 7-foot coach whip curled up will fit in your hand. I mean, it's got no fat on it. The thing is small.
Well, I tell people all the time a lot of people are fascinated with blue beauties because, like you said, blue is not a color that we see a lot in the snake world anyway. And I have a male, or had a male. I recently lost him. He was probably about 20 some odd years old, an original import, but he was 12'6".
Oof. Now
he had plenty of room and everything because it's, I've even got some pictures of him, and it's hard making like a 12'6" piece of spaghetti look impressive. They're just a skinny, raily little constrictor, but
tree hanger.
In a tree hanger. But everybody loves blue beauties, and I tell people that my blue beauties and I have a hate relationship. I still kind of like them, but they're the most irascible beauty snake that I have.
That's our other co-host Robert. His wife has a big blue beauty, and I've had to go over there and like when they were out of town, like do water changes on it. That's interesting because when you open the cage, they're ready.
Yeah. They are ready to go. They remind me, I used to work with Argentine boas a lifetime ago, and my Argentines were always, I had to feed them and leave the room.
Yeah.
Because they wanted to hiss and strike and be all kinds of shitty. And the blue beauties are about the same way for my stuff.
So I've got just regular red tails that don't like me. I walk in and they just start striking at the cage.
You got a lot of stuff in this house that doesn't like you, man.
Yeah, most animals don't. I don't know what it is.
There's a 12-year-old in the other room some days.
She the likes what I buy her. But so yeah, it's always interesting, especially snakes. I've got a big motley female. I'll walk in and I'm working in the snake room, and just all of a sudden you hear smash right into the plexiglass. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Heart attack the other day because I wasn't expecting it.
Well, you think at some point they learn to stop. Like, don't do it every day you walk in. But no, they're just like, no, I'm gonna keep doing it. I know one day she's just gonna get the force to do it hard enough to bust straight through that plexiglass and knock the door out.
I have one female blue beauty that I have to keep her cage front covered.
Oh,
She just absolutely does not want to calm down and get with the program. And I've had her probably about 9 years. And I think
it's the location. We may have to put her up higher because she's like shoulder height. Now, right as you go by, she's like banging the side of your head.
I had a female king rat that came in as a wild caught. It's about a 5-footer. And I had her for probably about 15 years. And that snake hated me from the day I bagged it till the day it died. It just never got with the program.
Oh, real quick, scroll back up. There was a question for them.
I was going to go back to a couple of
and that a couple of people in the chat have asked,
and
I forgot about it. And now people have been commenting.
Are there any species that you're keeping that you don't brewmate prior to breeding season?
Well, probably trinket. Well, most all the Coleothignathus, the radiateds, black copper rats, trinket rats. subradiata, all those guys don't do any kind of cooling. Everything else that I have, everything from Ridley-eye to bamboos and mandarins and 100 flowers, they're all in the same room and they all get the same thing and they all go to sleep at the same time.
Russians.
Yeah.
Ridley.
Now I do have different positions in the room, like the mainland Chinese stuff and the Russian stuff. I usually put on an exterior uninsulated wall. I want them to. I wouldn't be upset if I had to break ice in their water bowls to check on them. Whereas stuff like the Ridley-eye and maybe the blue beauties and rhinos, I keep more about the middle of the room, so they'll probably drop maybe to about 55. But there are a few species, like I said, I'm working on Barron's racers, albino Pitus mucosa.
But they're in the warm room.
And they're in the warm room, and they're all species that you don't ever really cool down.
Yeah.
But sometimes, I used to do Barron's racers, and then when I went all the old world, it's really tough to breed Barron-eye because, naturally, Barron-eye coming from Paraguay, to me, their main triggers and breeding seasons in February in the rains. And it's kind of hard with Barron-eye wanting to be 95 degrees in a room. I'm trying to keep 50. So I unloaded them. So they're a new project I just got again. So I won't be cooling those down more than likely either. The only old world that I've got that I'm not going to cool down this year and try to run together is I have some of the quote unquote Grabowski-eye beauty snakes.
Sumatrans.
There's some debate whether they're truly Grabowski-eye, or I kind of lean towards some of the Europeans, in which I think they're an undescribed subspecies. But because they come from Batu Caves in Malaysia, and this being my first year going with them, I don't think I'm going to cool them down. I'm going to actually just try to throw them together here this weekend and see if I can't get lucky.
So all talking about all those reminded me of another snake that I never see, and I wonder if you know anything about. So you never see, I didn't realize they existed until several years ago, but green rat snakes, like North American green rat snakes. And I don't know why people don't, everybody loves green snakes, and we have one in North America. Are they that hard to keep? Is there something there?
Well, anybody that's really into green rats needs to look up Bill Hughes out in Arizona. Super good guy. Works with a lot of Sanzinia and black-tailed.
That's why I follow him. He has Sanzinia, and I love green Sanzinia.
Bill has got it down with Senicolis, and he's been trying to sell me some for years. I actually have a room where I think I can make him work, because he tells you an interesting thing, and he's really somebody that you need to talk to, because I'll just be puking at secondhand. But he goes, the key to the Senicolis is even though you take them cold, they have to be able to keep their head warm. So that tells me that they must stay at the front entrances of rocks in the colder season to keep their head warm and their brain warm. I don't understand it. I'm not going to man because he's bred more Senicolis than I'll probably ever in my life.
I like Rob telling that story. That it just cracks me up. Incredulous look on his face.
I'm like, okay, you got to keep their head warm.
And I normally think that's something like a blackhead python, where they have a head that is black, so they can stick it out and heat it up quick.
Mm-hmm.
But not a solid color snake. It seems weird.
But yeah, they're another little quirky little rat snake. I've not had a lot of those and Bajas that I've not had a lot of personal experience with, but they are on my target list that I want to play with them before I punch out of the hobby here.
Well, because they're a pretty snake, and like I said, we're a hobby where people freaking love green snakes, and I'm like, it's like the rubber boas. We have our own boa, and nobody wants to do it. We have our own green snake, and nobody wants to do it. Everybody wants the stuff that's not here. And don't get me wrong, I love a lot of stuff that's not here. Most of my snakes are non-native, but there are some cool native things. I think the one that kills me, and I now own, and I love it, but I have a speckled king snake. Everybody loves diamond pythons. I'm like, we have one. We have our own version.
He loves speckled.
I'm a huge fan of speckled kings.
I've got one. There's a guy down here that breeds black-headed pythons and speckled king snakes, and his speckled king snakes are amazing. He just started breeding them again, but
nice.
It's got this solid yellow belly, and it is it's so pretty.
There's a really small group of speckled kings out in the Kansas area that 25 years ago, when I used to go out there when I was doing locality milk snakes and getting gentilis and stuff, I would find them, and they never got very big, but man, they were beautiful. kind of almost reminded you of a cross between Desert Kings and Speckled Kings. I'm not sure that locality crosses, but I've been trying to get somebody to find me a couple of small ones from the Russell and Pratt area of Kansas, but I haven't located it yet. I'm too old. No.
It's another species that we have in North America that I think fits the niche of so many other species that people keep. You know, everybody goes crazy over Mexican black king snakes, which we have one because a friend gave because Katie likes black snakes.
I love
and I'm like,
snakes.
Well, if you like king snakes, we have a really cool speckled one. I just don't get why people don't.
That's another one that we could have got for like $50 when we got married.
$40 when we got married.
And now they're like $250.
You got one as a gift.
I did get one as an anniversary gift. It was beautiful.
Well, the overseas market drove that price up.
Yeah.
I mean,
they're black snakes.
I used to not be able to get $35 for them in a 12 lot when I bred them eons ago.
We used to joke about not being able to sell them at the pet shop.
But what's funny now is the overseas market, ever since COVID, has kind of dried up, and I kind of fell into that same thing that a lot of people have fallen into, where I kind of backed into a handful of leucistic Texas rats. The rat snake, I like it, I'll breed it. And, you know, then you would come and some of these buyers from overseas would go, how many you got? I got 40. How much you want for them? $100 a piece. Well, that's food bill for a couple of months right there. So let me put on some more. So I put on some more, and now I put them on the table at $75, and nobody looks at them.
Nobody knows what they are.
Nobody knows what they are.
They went to Asia so many years at the local market, even the Tinley market. People don't even recognize what they are. They have no idea.
Now, do you aim to not have bug-eyed ones, or do you have bug-eyed ones?
I have mineral wells, but rumor has it, and I have a friend of mine that's big into genetics, which she talks over my head whenever I get woozy and sit down, and she and wife have a conversation. But she claims that bug-eyed is attached to the leucistic gene.
It is.
And then like the palmetto corns are basically just a form of leucistic, which it doesn't really have. Now, this is what she's saying. I'm not saying that. It doesn't really have anything about being inbred or not. It's just attached to that gene.
It is. So we actually had 2 episodes ago was my all doctors episode. I took all my friends in the hobby that are doctors, and they're all geneticists, and I was like, hey, let's come on. But I've talked to several of them before.
Yeah, we're really friends with Zach.
Yeah. You know, I had Sunglow boas a few years back, and of course the best looking one out of the entire litter, which I kept, had bug eyes. And it has to do with the path for creating the eyes is also linked to the melanin part, the lack of melanin. And so, yeah, like albino boas will have it happen. I've seen it in palmetto, the leucistic rats. It's not an inbreeding thing. It's a genetic thing. And which is kind of why, you know, I've kept this male for forever. I've had him. I think he's probably going on 6 years old now. And I was like, I'm never going to breed him. He had bug eyes. And it's gone on. I'm like, well, it's not fucking genetic. Right. I was like, and he's really pretty.
He's the prettiest one out of the whole litter.
And his eyes have sunken back in.
They really have. They look normal now.
So I was like, he may get a chance this year. I tried his brother last year, and his brother didn't do anything.
Sure.
So I was like, let's go with the funny one and see what he does. So, but yeah, I remember we've gone to Tinley once. We went in 2019, right before the whole world went to hell.
Oh.
And there was a guy selling palmetto corn. He's like, you buy a palmetto corn and you get like this bug-eyed one for free or whatever. Like it was just weird. I remember when they were so expensive to get one, he was like, buy one, get one. Just all these bug-eyed palmetto corns.
What was it when we were in Daytona on our honeymoon? Was it the Mexican Black King that was like, if you buy these 2, you get that for free or something? Or was that a different snake?
We bought corn snakes.
You bought corn snakes.
I bought a pair of Motley Het butters.
That's how we got Freebie.
And we got the snow for free.
Yeah. That's why we named her Freebie.
Yeah.
I remember that. That was 2009 in Daytona.
Nice.
Well, that's fun.
That's where we went for our honeymoon.
The corn snake project. And a lot of times she'll throw some hets, which are, just feeder snakes to me. But we'll keep them for a few months, and then we'll give them to some kids at the shows. Get them started on something that they hopefully have some interest in.
I've got one corn from the original corns we bought. We bought our original corns in 2005. I think we bought like 5 of them, and I've got one left. And he's rough. I'm pretty sure he's blind. He's completely blind now because watching him try to eat. I mean, he's got those gray cataract eyes, and he's not great at finding the food right away. So, Yeah, and he's gotten a little nippy. I think just because he can't see anything.
Sure.
So that's your.
I know that's Heinz.
So he's special, but then I have other corns that our friend here. We've got a friend that breeds corns, and my daughter wanted one, and then he tricked her in. He goes, "Hey, if you talk your dad into buying this one, he did.
You.
If you talk your dad into buying this one, I'll give you a deal on that one." So I ended up buying a.
She was 9 or 10.
I don't know, but it was pink. I had to have a pink. It was a pink corn snake. It was pink and gray.
Oh, I love those.
Yeah, the problem is you can't take pictures of them.
Yeah,
right. They don't show up.
Yeah. No matter, I'm like, yeah, it looks like Barbie pink. I don't know how to explain it. It's a Barbie pink snake. I'm like, it looks gray every time I take a picture of it.
And you can't take a picture of blue snakes either. Blue doesn't show up. It's very hard.
I heard on your podcast with Rufus, one of my New Year's resolution is to break out a light box and break out my camera and quit being lazy and trying to take phone pics. And see if I can't get decent pics of some of my stuff, because I have the hardest time catching oranges and yellows and stuff like that and things.
Well, and I looked because your Instagram and your Facebook, there's not a lot of cool, you've got a lot of cool snakes. So there's things will pop up here and there. I'm like, y'all need to take more pictures. So you'll have some really cool stuff that people don't have and that people don't realize exists in the hobby, because it's not a brown ball python that looks slightly other brown than the other brown snakes.
Maybe this summer we can take a vacation and you could photograph stuff for them and just give them all this stuff. And then we get a vacation.
I want to go to Tinley again. That's what I want to do.
I thought you wanted to go in the fall, and now you're saying the spring.
Chris Eaton said he was going in the spring.
I don't think I can swing spring.
Yeah, I don't think you can either.
October's when you want to go.
I can swing October. It's at the end of fall break.
It just kind of seems like, I mean, they made the building the same size. It used to be smaller for March than it was in October, but it's the same size, which is great because it gives a lot of more people the opportunity to vend there, because it's very difficult to get in there. But
yeah,
then it's just, holy cow, it's how many ball pythons and crested stuff you walk by.
I lucked in 2019. A friend of mine wanted to borrow my display because he was going to put some snakes on our friend's table. I was like, well, if you borrow the display, let me put a couple of boas that I have for sale in there. So I ended up selling like one boa while I was there. I was like, all right, let's pay for stuff. And then I went and bought Indian sand boas.
That's where I got my leopard gecko. I got her at Tinley.
That's not as cool.
Well,
it's not as cool as my Indian sand boas.
I wanted one for my classroom, and the guy was like, I'll sell you to her for $20 because she's for a classroom and my wife's a teacher. And I was like, done. Let's go.
Nice.
Still not as cool as my Indian sand boas.
My wife looked for some Russian sand boas for me there in March. I'm not sure I'm making it yet.
I got a friend who does Russians, so I can hook you up.
They actually stick and an albino, don't they?
I think so.
Yeah, the albinos, I don't like them at all.
I don't see. I've got two from my friend, and they are black. I like the black Russians. Regular Russians are okay, but I'm not. It's just a kind of a brown sambo. But man, the solid black ones are awesome.
Yeah, sometimes the genetics just don't really translate the way you think they will when you get the animal actually in your hand. Yeah,
I'm stalking Rufus because he's the only one I know that has Arabian sand boas, and I want Arabian sand boas. They look stupid. They look like a sock puppet, and I want them. So
yeah, but I heard you're getting calibars as well.
Yeah, they're sitting right over here.
Nice.
I got them. I got 2.1.
Solid project.
I'm super excited. Again, if it is a boa that likes to live underground, I'm sold.
Well, everybody asks me what to get into, and I go, take any animal that you see on a table that's nobody wants. It's a dime, and that's going to be your project you need to be into in here in about 10, 12 years.
Because it won't be around.
Well, and I told people, especially, so we talked about, so many people got into ball pythons, and I've talked on the show before, other people. I think a lot of folks don't know what reptile they really like because they haven't owned it, because they got ball pythons and like, I'm going to do ball pythons. But there's other stuff. And you're starting to see people with ball python collections get other things because they're realizing there's other things. Cool. And so I think everyone should, especially if you have one of these mono collections of one species, find something else, try something else. You will like it.
Well, I think diversity is key in the market right now anyway. Yeah. I wouldn't want to be super stupid deep in any one thing right now.
So
we were talking about it earlier. When you walk through a show and everybody has the same displays and the same lights, and it looks like rows and rows and rows of the same thing. I just get kind of eye blind to the whole thing, and unless something happens to catch my attention, I just kind of just buzz past it.
Yeah.
So Katie thinks I'm stupid, but I've got a plan for I'm changing my setup, my display, not my display, but my whole setup, my table and everything.
Nice.
I'm gonna buy a light.
You realize somebody's going to steal this because
that's fine. They're not going to do it. They're going to think it's stupid too, but
they are.
I'm getting like a DJ light setup that goes behind me that'll hold DJ lights, and I'm gonna do like flashing lights and all this stuff and shining up on the ceiling, and it'll annoy everybody else at the show, but people will stop at my table because that's the hardest part. Is because, like you said, I can go through a show pretty quick because the people that are used to it, you kind of skip. But there have been shows where I've missed stuff because it's a ball python table, but they'll have something on it. Like we went to Arlington and I somehow missed the albino Brazilian rainbow boas, and I fucking love rainbow boas, and they were there. I watched a Dave Kaufman video afterwards, and he's like, I was there. How did I not see them? And of course they were kind of in a ball python area.
Well, once in a while, I mean, I have to, intently, I have to, as much as I zone out and get woozy and want to pass out, I have to look at every ball python table there, because a lot of the sellers are so desperate to move an animal that they might trade for something that's up my alley.
Yeah.
Be back in the corner in a cup that's brown, and you'd have to look for that little brown thing.
So you can't really pass anything up. But I was actually speaking to a friend of mine who's a boa breeder here a little bit earlier, and we were having the same discussion, and I was telling him, I'm like, you may have to come up with something that's just a little bit outside the box just to get that person to stop.
Yep.
Because all the displays, all the animals, everything looks the same. And you may have to try a display with some nice assortment of, sub-adult stuff or something to get people to at least stop and take a look at what you have on your table.
That's what I found.
DJ lights, I think, are whip.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And that's what I found with like Samboas. They're so small. You put them in a display, they kind of disappear. But there was a couple shows where I took the parents, take big anery female and an anery male. And not only can I go, you can see the size difference between a female and a male, but they stop because they fill up the entire thing on that display.
Yep.
And then they see the babies.
I was speaking to a guy at our local show last time, and a guy has some really nice, scaleless corns and stuff that, I mean, I'm not particularly interested in it, but I'll give anybody appreciation if I think they got a really nice animal or stuff. And I told him, I go, you may need to bring an adult, something that's bigger, get people to stop and at least touch it, see what's involved with the scaleless. Mm-hmm. And you might see that you might sell some stuff. And then the next month he did sell a couple of them because he had a larger one there for display.
Yeah, it's really interesting for some of the snakes that go through change, like especially corn snakes. I mean, take a baby Okatee and an adult Okatee corn.
Oh, yeah, that's
right? You can sell an adult Okatee any day you want to because of how it looks, but a baby looks like a corn snake. It's just a corn snake.
Well, you have to trust the person you're buying from too, because I see a lot of Okatees on tables that are not.
Oh, I've seen that. Yeah.
But I think a lot of times, when you start kind of looking at the crowd at like a Tenley or whatever, a lot of those people are just like the Walking Dead. They're overstimulated. And the only thing they're really into are ball pythons. And if you've got anything that's different, you may need to think outside the box and display, or bring in a larger animal for display, anything to get them to at least stop and take a notice of your table. You might be the greatest Samboa out there, but if they don't take the time to stop and listen, because you got a second to grab their attention, and if you don't have they may pass you right on by and never see that you got the best looking Kenyan Samboa in the show.
Well, and adults of most species, it's a double-edged sword. It's great to have them there, but you also do risk, them catching something. It is something that could happen to them. But like, I remember in 2019 when we went, Jason Hood had a bunch of blackheads, but he had I forget what this called, something bird snakes. I mean, some weird.
You got Susties, bunch of Susties.
Yeah, the big giant scales, and they look fake. Like I remember walking by and go, that looks like a fake snake. But it had these huge adults. I'm like, that is a cool looking snake, and I don't think you'd see that in the baby. Like it's not going to look as cool.
Yeah, if you got one that goes through a big autogenic color change, you got to show people what it looks like. You don't have to ever getting any money for it. Oh. But I do agree with you. It is a risk. So normally the few times I'll take something on display, I usually take like a grow up,
surplus
or
male,
secondary male or something like that.
Retired breeder.
Yeah.
or something that I don't have to risk.
Like the 100 flower snakes as an adult, that's a cool looking snake that a lot of people aren't used to ever seeing.
Right.
You know, mandarins kind of look the same, but an adult mandarin is more impressive than a baby mandarin, right?
I know a whole box full of babies is really pretty.
Yes.
And I had Daytona several times and sold out every time.
Yeah, she took like 100 down to Daytona, and it was nobody ever seen that amount on a display before, so it did grab their attention. But I will agree,
kind of psychedelic.
Yes, they are a cool one. One question I got asked in the chat for y'all was, what species are you looking at moving into for breeding in the future? Since we're talking about kind of plans and all.
You got barons and
I'm wanting to take a whack at red-tail green rats. Your favorite from your old pet shop days. They're a great snake. They're always going to have a place in the hobby. They're getting a little more expensive, so I see that window of opportunity being able to pick them up reasonably kind of coming to a close. But my room before, I wasn't able to work with them because they wanted to be more. I think they're an animal that definitely needs an arboreal cage. Definitely needs a basking light.
Yeah, well.
Probably needs 100% humidity on them. A lot of things that I didn't have in my cold room. And so, be it that it's, you know, what people are used to as seeing as a $25 face eater, that's probably my next target animal. I mean, I just got Jansen eye because I can work with them in the warm room, and so I'll be trying to find some babies, or at least some captive hatch babies. But
you got the Spilotes.
Yeah, and I got a stupid pair of Spilotes I got hung with. That, like, fuck it, I may as well try to breed them. I've never bred Spilotes.
Attitude list.
Yeah, that's a new one I have that I didn't really want, but I kind of got forced to buy them intently from a friend of mine that captive hatched them, and I thought, well, you know, I'll find somebody that wants to buy a pair of Spilotes. No, so now I have Spilotes. I'm not real excited about it. Surprise.
The red-tailed green rats would be interesting to see people work with them more and actually get them to look good, because a lot of the wild ones that come in are not color-wise, they're just not that good.
After-born babies in Kentucky before we moved, and they did fantastic. They were captive hatched from a zoo, and they did fantastic. And
there's several different localities and several different color phases of them, and there's several people here in the United States that are light years ahead of me on the project that are really putting in some great time and effort into that. And a lot of people will comment a lot of times on my Facebook page, because I'll give people props for stuff that I don't work with or that I do work with. You know, if you're doing good work, you deserve to be pointed out. I don't look at everybody as competition.
No. But
there's some guys out there doing some great work with red-tailed green rats. And like I said, I'm way behind on the project, but I'll get there.
Have you ever done the cave dwellers?
Oh, I do a ton of cave dwellers.
They just, to me, they always just look like faded out. Like, I don't know behavior wise, but it just looks like a faded out version of the red-tailed green rat. It's like, this is what happens when you throw it in the cave and it has no color.
It depends. It depends a lot upon the locality, and some of the localities are getting kind of muddied up by people that are just breeding particular stuff. We went through a thing like about 4 years ago of people wanting to know localities. I don't hold locality at very high standard, particularly when it comes to Asian stuff, just because I know how the stuff is collected and how it goes about,
and how we had to buy it,
and how we bought it. And, you know, I find it amazing of people that can tell me what rock on what corner or what subdivision this snake came from in a country that you are in civil war with each other, you damn near can't get into.
Well, back in the day when we bought Ridley.
Yeah, well, and I bought my original Ridley eye, I bought from through Cameron Trepedlin at Bushmaster, through Klaus Dieter Schultz, who wrote The Monolith of Rat Snakes, which is the best book out there. And that was when we were really just kind of getting going. And I had to buy 3 males to get 1 female.
Yeah.
And
these were captive hats.
And these were captive hats. And I still have some animals out of that line to this day. They were Malaysians. But back in the 80s and 90s, when we were trying to get stuff, shit, we didn't care what locality it was. We were just happy to find 2 of them stay alive long enough to breed.
Yeah, exactly.
And we didn't give a shit where they came from.
So there's a whole bunch of scuttlebutt about Rob having a not locality specific, but, you know, Klaus is dead now, but
I did have
Klaus didn't keep any records.
No,
of that.
and I wrote Klaus because we were friends of mine, and he told me, oh, back then most all the ones that we collected and that I had babies out of were Malaysians.
But he didn't have like the village or the province because that wasn't important. We were just trying to keep them alive and get them into the hobby.
But I know a lot of things get named after the airport they fly out of, so it's not even like where they actually came from.
But an interesting thing about Ridley, if anybody have Ridley out there, if you try to keep them in a rack system and you try to keep them on aspen bedding, if they start sitting around with their mouth hanging open, take them off of aspen bedding, just put them on newspaper, they'll clear right up.
Yeah, we had
But they're because they're a cave dweller used to very high humidity and the dust irritates their lungs and stuff. And a lot of people will write me and go, I think my Ridley's got a cold. And I'm like, I have never fucking seen a Ridley eye get a cold.
That makes sense though with the dust.
Right. And it's the dust. So once you take them off that very dry bedding and put them on something else, they'll clear right up. But Ridley, great. And everybody likes Cameron Highlands, which are the bright yellow ones, and they're very variable in base color. But they're a Ridley eye are a snake that I think a lot of the breeders out there, and I tried to do it, and I just got shot down with it. Screwed up in the fact that they're not really up on the natural history and how that animal works. And Ridley eye are typically very high male throwers. I mean, we had a buddy of ours in California hatched out 19.2.
You wonder if that has to do with because of where they're located. It's harder for a female to find a male. So if you have more males, better chance of them not getting knocked up. So
kind of surprised myself because a lot of times I think way too hard on a lot of shit. The more stuff's not higher male producing because typically the males are the ones that are doing all the traveling and the fighting and the ones more likely to get scarfed up. But when you have animals like that, you kind of have to take that into consideration when marketing such. So I mean, you sell somebody a male, for $150 or however much they're selling them for, and that person will go, well, I'm gonna raise it up and find me a female. No, you're not. Good luck. Nope. It's not gonna happen. But so a lot of people extra male, they dump them cheap, which affects the market.
Brittany asked, weren't you the first one to breed Ridleys in captivity?
No, there was probably a lot of people that did it before I did. But I probably, I had a catastrophe several years ago, and at that point in time, I would venture guess I had more adult Ridley eye than anybody in the country. I had 21. When it was all over, I had 2. So I've been rebuilding since.
That's rough.
Yeah, I lost about $100,000 worth of animals that summer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I walked out of the. I didn't go in for about 7 months.
I can see that. Laura asked, and I'm going to aim towards. I think it was mandarins earlier. But what is your favorite species to keep and work with?
Well, my favorite overall group of animals are beauty snakes. I love the Oriothrophis. I love beauty snakes. I've never met a beauty snake I didn't like unless it was one I didn't own. I would venture a guess that all told, the amount of beauty snakes that I have on hand, I've got to be probably 75 or 80.
I don't.
That's a lot of beauty snakes.
I love you.
Well, when you get over 3 rooms full, you quit counting. So there's like quite a few.
But
yeah, I for the first time, I don't know how long, went through and actually did a record of what I need to, like if I need to feed everything at one time, what do I need? Because I kept pulling rodents and I'd get feed. And I'm like, damn, I'm a mouse, or I'm short on here and this. So I went and did it. And then I did the math on it the other day, and it was like, I know it's not gonna sound like a lot to someone who has a crap ton like y'all, but I was like, it's $150 for me to just feed the room one time. Yep. I was like, and granted, not everything's eating every week and all that, but still, I was like, shit, I need to breed some more of these snakes because I need to start making some money to pay for these rats.
For sure.
Well, I thought 500 pinkies at a time every week. That's my stuff. Then I always have to go back and thaw it more. That's just in the baby room. So that's not counting the garters.
If anybody wants to try beauty snakes, get you a good Taiwan. They're the best. You learn how to keep a Taiwan. They're the most mellow. They're nice size. They're beautiful animals. They're highly adaptive to where you want to keep them. You want to put them in a big, nice paludarium and let them climb. That's great. You want to keep them in an oversized drawer system. That's great. Don't jam them up. But Taiwan are the best ones to get your feet wet.
Yeah, I'm always amazed when I see a big beauty snake. I just forget how long they get.
Well, I will never not have beauty snakes, and I will probably never not have Taiwans. I got my original Taiwans out of Columbus Zoo back in about the late 80s or early 90s. And I still have Columbus Zoo stock Taiwans. And I think by far, I don't know how anybody can look at those things and not think they're a beautiful animal.
Lots of yellow.
That's so you brought up something that you don't hear anymore in the hobby, but like a lot of people in the 80s and stuff and even 70s, I got this from this zoo or from that zoo. And like that is not a thing now. You're not like, I got these snakes from that zoo because the way zoos are.
Buy them. You had to trade for them, and we had lab cages. So
Yeah, we were the largest used lab cage seller in the United States.
We used
Really?
to buy surplus, and so the zoo wanted lab cages, and the reason they wouldn't sell is because a friend of ours worked there, and he said that when the zoo sells something like at the reptile department, it has to go through the front office. It's a lot of paperwork.
In the general fund.
And then they only get about 15% of it because it all gets split up amongst all the departments. So it really wasn't worth them to do the paperwork to sell it. So they would rather trade you. And if it was a trade, that all was perfectly fine. So we would trade them lab cages. And that's the only way we were able to get those captive born red tail greens that we got, and also those Ridleys.
Or no, the Taiwan.
I mean, the Taiwans. Sorry.
That's cool.
Mhm.
Darren Watson in the chat asked, because we were talking about vending earlier, and so when y'all first started vending, how much attention went into table displays, or was that a thing then? I was just you just had a table and some stuff, right, or a hotel room and some stuff.
No. So
it was
a swap meet because we didn't have tables. You just showed up with an aquarium, and I had baby boas, and Ed Lukasevic had baby iguanas, and we traded with each other. And he told me how he bred iguanas, and we told him how we bred boas. And then there was like 12 people there, and we were all just meeting once a month and trading stuff. And then people that didn't breed wanted to come in, and we didn't know how to do it. So we would go to the grocery store and get cake containers or, deli cups from the grocery and poke holes in them with a what was that thing we used? The hole puncher that was for
cards.
It was for some kind of bridge
cards.
And
sit and poke holes for hours.
Yeah. And then but there was no table decoration back then. You just threw your stuff out there.
No, we used a lot of will hole boxes, which are small hard plastic. I actually still have some down in the
shoe boxes, sweater
in one
boxes,
of my rooms
with rubber bands holding it shut.
But it was really neat that I was a speaker for the IHS actually for breeding pancake tortoises back in a lifetime ago. And it was so neat. We'd run through people's hotel room, and they'd pull open drawers, and every will hold boxes and stuff in closets, and you'd hang a note on the door. I got these. I'm going to the bar. I'll be back at 7. And that's where, we'd sit and shop and hang out and bullshit with, Bob Clark and.
Okay, you have to come back on here just to talk about your adventures with pancake tortoises.
She loves pancake tortoises.
Oh my gosh, that is so cool.
Pancake tortoises are great. If I no longer work with them, I'll give him a shameless plug. If you contact Ron Hatcher here in Columbus, Ohio, Ron's Quality Reptiles, he's the man on pancake.
Write it down.
Here.
He is the man on pancake tortoises.
Yep.
He used to be the head turtle keeper at Columbus Zoo.
Yep.
That's another one.
Years.
Well, we talked about prices on things. The price of pancake tortoises now is painful. Now that I'm like, hey, I want to get a pancake tortoise. I'm like, nope, can't get them now.
What's real painful is I tell people that a buddy of mine and I at one time sold pancake tortoises, Egyptian tortoises, and homopus or spider tortoises from Madagascar for $20 a piece and made money.
Yep.
Wait. You sold spider tortoises for how much?
Yep.
That's crazy.
Yep.
Look for whatever is dirt cheap that nobody wants to pay. I just found out that water dragons went protected and they're gone.
Yeah, Chinese are the Chinese water. I mean, obviously Australians were already, but that one, when that happened, I was like, great. That means people are going to want to buy iguanas now. I was like,
what's sad is that, you don't see that shit coming, and then the next thing you know, just like me, a friend of mine showed up at the Cleveland Reptile Show with a pair, and I'm like, damn, those are cool. I haven't seen them in forever. And then like, oh shit, where'd they all go? They're gone.
What was it? The
fire-belly newts and toads.
And the toads, the fire-belly toads.
And there's a lot of stuff coming in the country, or have been over the last couple of years. They're probably questionable legally origin. I don't know all the ins and outs, and I don't care. I look at it as an opportunity to pick stuff up. But I hope people took notice of Loxocemus bicolor when they were coming in dirt fucking cheap, and speckled racers out of Mexico. They were an animal that weren't any, and then they came in dirt cheap, and
For
now
a little
they're
bit, now they're gone.
yep, now they're going to be gone.
Or even giant millipedes, the giant Madagascar millipede. They're like $50 a piece now.
They were $25 a piece. Now look at them.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you got to have that foresight to look ahead and keep your eye. That's why I say calibars are a goddamn phenomenal project, in my opinion. And you produce those. Shit, I think you're carrying on for a breeder. I don't give a shit how many ball pythons you really have in your closet.
Well, and that's one person we had her on before that I think did that exact thing where she found a species that wasn't overly wanted and has taken it farther. Is April Linkfield with house snakes and file snakes. Like those were dirt cheap imported things on tables that were going to die after someone bought them, and she now has captive bred. I mean, the insane colors you can find in house snakes now. And then the fact that she has file snakes with it, she breeds file snakes, I think is super cool.
And there's one of those red and black snakes coming out of Africa. I know Matthew Most is doing really good work with those, and Russ Gurley's bred them, and they're a wicked fucking snake. I have not decided to try them yet. I probably will. But you know, it's just having that foresight to want to try something different, want to go outside your comfort zone. You know, take a whack on something. Last year, there were a bunch of geckos and stuff that came out of like San Martinique. I don't think I've ever seen anything come in out of San Martinique. So were they questionably obtained? Maybe. Is it a fantastic opportunity for people to get their hands on a species they may never see again? I hope a lot of people did.
Hey, we don't get things illegally in this hobby. I don't know what you're talking about.
No. Never.
Melanistic blue tongue skinks were already here, right? Those just popped up here.
Yeah, I wonder how long it'll be before some of the other morphs I've seen will be over here.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like children's pythons, there's all those children python morphs in Australia. I'm like, they'll be here at some point.
Eventually, they'll come in as documented zoo captive born.
They'll come from that magic portal in Germany.
Magic portal, that's right.
That's it.
But yeah, I think more people need to get into the odd stuff, because I definitely remember. Now, again, with that said, it's hard. People have to look past dollar bills, right? Because if you go buy an import table or just a reseller table, you're going to find a lot of cheap import stuff. You know, even like when I talked with April and she did the file snakes, I can go find a cheap file snake on a table that's probably going to die if I try to buy it. Right. Or you could save the money and buy one from her who is captive bred it, and it's going to be better, and it's going to help the hobby long term. You just got to understand the long game here, and everybody, unfortunately, we got to a part of the hobby where it's all short game.
And that's one thing. I mean, I kind of have pros and cons about import stuff. I can't say that it doesn't have a place, but I wish there was some way you could educate some people, because it's like, we had somebody bring up a Scolarcophus actosinctus, I call them Nicaraguan centipede suckers. They're really pretty snake.
Red,
like
black,
yellow. Halloween snakes, I think maybe they call them, or harlequin snakes. They got little orange spots on them. They're at every show right now, and they're dirt cheap. And there's a couple people I know that have some long term, but they only eat centipedes.
That's it.
And so don't be a sorry fucker and import some shit in and sell it wholesale, or sell it on your table wild caught, and then send them to me to tell them how to take care of it. And I go, you better take a picture, it'll last longer.
And I'm trying to only eat centipedes. I show him I look it up on my phone. I write it down for him. Well, he said it ate pinkies, and I said they never eat pinkies. They only eat centipedes, and centipedes are $50 a piece. A friend of mine bought one, and it actually got killed by the centipede. He had it about a year at $50 a meal, and then the centipede was too big and ate the snake. So, and that person, I'm sure, that bought that snake didn't have any success with it, and I'm sure that they went down screaming and squalling that they were gypped out of their money. But I would have gone right back to the person and said, this snake's not gonna work for me.
I hate watching these. Look, I'm all for import snakes going to people that can properly deal with the import snake. That's the general public does not need an import snake, because there's just certain things that they don't need. But I hate watching import or resale tables where they do that. They go, yeah, this thing's eating. And I'm like, I watched you take that shit out of a box an hour ago. Is the first time you have seen that snake. Don't tell someone what it is eating and that it is eating.
Well,
right?
the only way that I think, and I know it's really, and I'm not saying boycott people and don't picket and all that bullshit, but if there's any way that you can, and I try to tell people, try to take the entire table in when you're looking. If it looks like a meat market, maybe you don't want to buy them. If you're into ball pythons, would you come and buy one from me? I don't know shit about ball pythons. I'm not the guy to go to for ball pythons.
Well, you just want that.
But a lot of people have a very sour taste in their mouth because they'll go and they'll see some half-dead tokay gecko on the table for $3.
But then they're rescuing it.
Yeah, they're going to buy it and they're going to save its life, and then they bitch about it because it dies. The only way you're ever going to get these people to stop selling that stuff is to stop buying it. It doesn't matter how bad it looks. You're just going to have a negative response. And sadly, it's like you said, so much of the reptile hobby looks like a cheap motherfucker at an expensive restaurant. They read the price first and then they see what it is.
Yeah. And it just, there's certain snakes. Look, like we're talking about feeding. I would love to own a mud snake. I think they're the most beautiful snake we have in North America, but the damn thing eats amphiumas. Like that's it. It's all it eats. You can want it to eat whatever you want, but that's what millions of years of evolution said. It's going to eat that slimy salamander and you can't get them.
Yep. I'll see them fuckers at a table for sale.
Yep.
Every so often. It's unreal. Drives me crazy.
One I would love to see people get and actually learn how to do and breed sunbeam snakes. I'm tired of seeing sunbeam snakes get sold and know that they're just going to die.
Peter Rushton.
Yep. And some sunbeams are they're almost like a rubber boa.
Yeah.
Put them in about 8 inches of substrate and leave them fuck alone.
Yeah.
But most people don't want to do that because they want to see their animal. They want to jack with it. They want to handle it. And I get that. I understand it. People that are not, maybe as far into it as you or I may be, they want to mess with it. And that's the thing. And you ultimately, in my opinion, whether you're the biggest breeder with $100,000 facility or some cat that's just got 6 animals, you should ultimately you're a hobbyist first. You should want people to have a positive experience in this hobby. And if I take a kid by the hand over to a friend of mine's table to sell him a ball python, even though I hate him, hopefully that kid remembers that. And maybe in 10 years, he wants to try sand at a Taiwan. But, if we as hobbyists, if we don't try to, to educate first and worry about making a buck, a distant second, I'm afraid a lot of the industry isn't going to struggle for a while.
Well, that also, and we're almost out of time, but we didn't talk about shows, but that's another thing about,
So we need to have y'all back on just for I don't feel like we didn't do anything on Facebook really.
No, we didn't get to any of our Facebook
like
stuff,
anything on Facebook. So if you commented or posted something that you wanted us to share, I apologize.
Always willing to chat.
It's been awesome.
Because I'd like to talk like reptile shows. I'd like to talk, the change in them over time, but also, we talk about it's on the people not selling this and that, but it's also on the shows not putting these animals in front of people that don't know any better, right?
Well,
but I mean, even take a look at some of the biggest venues. Look at Tenley.
Yeah.
First time I went to Tenley, I didn't sell a thing, and I had Ben Siegel next to me and Strictly Reptiles right across from me.
And they weren't captive born. At that time.
I mean, if you want to do a captive born, and sadly, if you want to do a captive born only show, what are you going to get? Ball pythons.
Ball pythons.
That's what you're going to.
I had said something about doing a show where it was just breeders, a true breeder show. People were like, well, you wouldn't get enough things there. And this, I'm like, it would be tricky. It would definitely be tricky.
It'd be tough.
You'd have to limit ball pythons. You couldn't be like, all right, anybody's welcome, just breeders. And then you'd have ball pythons.
Well, we had that problem. We put on the Cleveland Reptile Show.
Yeah.
And have some people that get really angry because we only have 125 tables. And, they've been trying to get in for several months and they breed ball pythons. And I just can't have 125 tables of ball python people knocking each other in the head. So, nobody would want to come to that.
Well, yeah, it gets boring for people. They want to walk around and see the odd and end animals, but that's also better for the hobby. They see the odd and end animals because they don't know those things exist. They don't know half the rat snakes you have exist until you show it to them.
Right. But there'll be some changes, and I wouldn't mind being in a show talk because but I'd be lying if I said I had the answers. There really, right now. I mean, we have more supply than we do have demand.
It's an evolving thing. It always has been.
Yep, it'll constantly evolve. Yeah, and that way, if you work with what you like, you'll never be in a bad shape.
Well, and you saw 2020 and 2021 for people. It was everybody sold everything they had, and then everybody got into the hobby, and right now they're realizing, oh wait, not everybody's buying stuff, and now everybody's getting out of the hobby, and it's.
Well, I tell people, when COVID was around, you do 60 seconds worth of research, and you've got tax refund money. You buy the right, combination of morph ball pythons, and you're on a table next year selling 3 or 4 figure ball python.
Yeah,
and it'll. The financial end of it will always weed out the true breeders and hobbyists from the people that are in it for money.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't, the 2 things I tell people right now: don't sell your ball python collections off. Ball pythons are the best beginner snake out there, whether I hate them or not. They're the best.
They're just not what you like.
They're just not up my alley.
Yeah, they're boring.
But you cannot take away from the fact that they are one of the best beginner snakes now for a kid to get started.
Yeah, look how big a fat.
And this year, maybe like I said, you don't breed 300 female ball pythons. Just pick a few genes you want to shoot for. Take a step back this year. And if you just kind of hold the reins, if you produce more animals than you're willing to set on, then you probably need to rethink what you're doing.
Well, and I've said that all these people that are selling their entire collection, shy of like a medical emergency needing the money type thing, all these people that are selling their entire collections aren't reptile people. They are people that went to a reptile show and said, I can do this and I can make tons of money.
Exactly.
And that's not what it is.
They're gamblers, investors. They're not in it for the long haul. They'll eventually weed themselves out. We've seen more people come and go than I can count.
Yeah.
But it's, it's just this cyclic thing. Just ride it out. It'll be fun.
You got to be responsible. I mean, I like babies of any form, but I'm not going to breed stuff just because I like babies.
I was like, where are we going with this? Because no. I don't like those babies.
I'm too old to start over.
Done.
Mine feeds herself and does her own laundry.
but yeah, I think people need to. It's also where we need to get back to quality over quantity, because the last few years have definitely been quantity, and you can breed ball pythons, but again, like I said, pick 2 or 3 genes you really like and make it the best looking whatever it is.
Yeah,
because right now it's either name or price. That's what's making it right now for people. If somebody's got a name for something, people are going to go to them for that thing. You want something that hisses, spits, bites, and shits on you, you probably look me up. But or it's price. And once in a while, I might get into something and I'll flip something for a friend of mine, and I'll ask them. I'll go, "How much do these sell for?" And they might go $200. All right, I'll mark them $250, because I'm not in that market. And I don't want to hurt that market or damage that market. I sure shit ain't gonna throw them out on my table for $100.
Yeah,
I'm not in it. But there's a lot of people that aren't that way.
Yeah, that's always rough watching someone go in and lowball at a show, and
that sucks.
I'm like, come on, if you're gonna sell, same price as everybody else, or don't sell it $100 cheaper. Like, come on, it's
yeah.
Yeah, I know there was a big buzz at our last show because some cat was supposedly, and I don't pay attention, but some cat was supposedly selling like clown balls, whatever the hell that is, for like $80.
I have one of those actually.
Is that one of the ones we have?
That was selling blue-eyed Lucy's for $100 a piece out of his retail pet shop.
Oh, geez.
Now, I heard a lot of grumbling about that. To me, it don't mean shit. You tell me you're selling blue beauties for $75, and I'm going, well, what the fuck you doing?
Well, I'll buy them all.
I'll buy them all. but there was a lot of grumbling going on. And it's just a very competitive market.
Yeah.
And either got to gut it out. You got to think outside the box. That's why I tell everybody that are friends of mine that do them, don't get out of them. Breed pieds. Pieds are the best ball python out there.
I've got a pied banana. So I have 4 ball pythons.
Are my favorite.
Because I had a buddy that was getting out of snakes, and I wanted the pied banana. And I was like, okay, I'll take the other ones also.
Yeah.
But like, it had everything I want. I don't like ball pythons except for that. It had everything I want in one snake. It's just a
cool gene. Like, it just looks cool.
And I tell people I could go and I could set a whole show display up in the middle of a mall, and the only snake that'll stop people in their tracks would be a pied ball python.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
It is.
So just breed pies. Put the rest on ice for this year. Don't breed them. Don't sweat it. If you're worried that much about it financially that you got to breed this stuff and you got to sell this stuff, where you can afford to have it, then you probably shouldn't be in the hobby anyway, because it just doesn't work that way. I mean, everything I breed, I'll tell people, I'll have people try to lowball me. No, I got a cage for it. I'll bring it the fuck back home. I'll feed it up 6 more months, bring it to Tinley, and double the price on you next time.
Well, and what really gets folks is they watch all those YouTube videos where big breeders walk into a room full of racks, or they go to a show where someone has 7 tables full of snakes, and they're like, I want to do that. And I'm like, not everybody's Walmart, right? You can't be the same thing.
Social media has been the best and the worst thing that's happened to the reptile industry, in my opinion.
I think the world in general.
In the world in general, I will.
There's a lot of people that didn't have a big voice, and a lot of those people are really nasty and negative, and make for very unpleasant people on the internet.
Yes, I'm all for freedom of speech, but not everybody needs to have their voice heard.
Yeah, exactly.
Truly.
And in the old days, if somebody screwed you over, you went to the table and took animals or beat the shit out of them. You didn't talk about it.
Okay, so that just seals that we're coming back and we're going to have an episode just of you telling old stories, because, oh my God, I love this. Like, I think that's what I have loved the most about this episode. Darren Watson said the same thing. We need to have one where it's like, well, he wants one on the Reptile Show Talk, but just like, that's what you don't hear anymore. You don't hear the stories about what it was like or how it's changed. You just hear about what it is now and what we're dealing with. That's why sitting down with John Shores, I love listening to him tell stories. And I love listening to Rick and Jim Sargent and like a bunch of the older guys at the herp shows. I just love when we go to dinner with them, getting to sit with them and listen to their stories. Like, I love that.
Stories for hours.
Well, we know Ed Celebucky up in Cleveland, and without Ed, a lot of things wouldn't be in the hobby.
There wouldn't be any ring pythons, to put it that way.
And Ed can tell some amazing stories about being with the headhunters and sleeping in these huts, and the whole thing would go like this all night long, and you're trying not to fall out the door because there's no door on the hut. He had to tie himself to the wall. I mean, people tell these really cool stories about their hunting and their adventures, and I just think it's fascinating.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
When I like talking about old hobby stuff, even when I say old, I mean 90s and 80s is still like it's nothing like what it is.
Hobby for 20 years, James. You're considered old in the hobby too.
But it's nothing like what it is. Like what it is now. People that jump into the hobby now have no idea what it was. Like, look, yes, you said ball pythons make a great pet, right? But go 20, 25 years ago, it's a fucking horrible pet. It's not going to eat. It's going to die. You have to force feed it.
Yeah. Yeah. Go for 2 years and not eat.
Trash.
Yeah. But people don't know that. They go now to PetSmart and buy a snake and it eats the next day. And you're like, that's not how it was supposed to be. That's not how it was.
That's a testament to the breeders. I mean,
yeah,
like I said, even though I don't like ball pythons, I cannot take it away. The work that they're doing with the colors and the mutations, and most of them, if you stay out of the spider genes. And I was down in Daytona in the hurricane show and watched spider balls drop from 15 grand to 5,000 before the doors even open. But you know, you take that out, and I mean, they've done fantastic work to give people a good, positive, beautiful animal to get into the hobby with. Now, will they ever shift gears from ball pythons? I don't know, but it gets more people, which is more voice and more strength for the hobby, and that should be what it's all about. So I do give ball pythons breeders props. I don't ever want to own one, but I appreciate what you do.
All right, let's get out of here because it's
all right. No, I normally start yawning around like 10 to 9, so I apologize.
So if people
had a good time,
oh, it was a great time. And if people want to get a hold of y'all and they want snakes that are gonna bite and pee all over them, how can they get a hold of you?
They can find us on Facebook at Zerkle Reptile Company, and I'll give you our email address, and you'll laugh. But and people talk about not being able to get a hold of us. Our email address is reptileforme@aol.com. Yes, we still have the original.
33 years old.
Yes.
See, the people give
number 4.
Reptile for me.
People give me shit because I have a Hotmail. I don't have an AOL.
Yes.
So great.
I told you I wouldn't text that.
My kids wanted to do Gmail, and I go, why would I change it? Everybody knows my email address. They've done it for 32 years. Why would I give that up?
I tried to do Gmail once, and it was taken, and I got pissed, and I couldn't get it. And and then I ended up finding somebody that had that business name in like Colorado, and then we ended up doing a show here in Texas, and I was vending. Guy walks up and goes, I used to have a business called Simply Serpents, and I was like, oh, really? Where are you from? Colorado. And I felt bad because I yelled. I was like, you're the motherfucker that had. I was like, my bad. I was like, it's years of pent up aggression that I couldn't have the name and you had it. But
Well,
That's funny.
I figured my last name was weird enough. I didn't need to try to put much else with it. So, Zerkle Reptile Company.
I say I have a Zerkle Reptile Company sticker on my freezer downstairs.
I appreciate
That's us.
With,
And we
with
did that on purpose. So if you lose your business card, there's a sticker on the bag at every show because you will be amazed at the people that can find. And we put stickers on our deli cups too.
Yeah.
So people have my phone number, so they can't say they couldn't get a hold of us.
I love it.
and you can go on Morph Market and see all 3 snakes that you have available on Morph Market.
Yeah.
Well, we
I
don't
don't
ship this time of year.
down here.
So honestly, we don't ship
I'm
until
a-
April.
I'm a wussy and I only ship about 6 months out of the year.
That's because y'all live where there's an actual
I was about to
winter.
say, you just said that it was going to be like 2 degrees outside. I don't blame it at all.
Increase the high on Tuesday. Come on up.
I don't have to. I'm here in Frame to Tenley in March, so that's where they'll be.
See, that's the difference. We're on the other end where like there's a whole part of the year that we can't ship because it's 110 degrees and we can't get stuff out.
Exactly.
Well, we kind of do spring and fall. Summer is like variable. It just depends on the temperature. But yeah, we're in the same kind of thing. Hot summer, super cold winter. So we just have a little narrow window we can do.
The high today was 55 and the high tomorrow is 72.
Oh, Lord.
That's rough. How we survive.
Yeah. As long as it's dry so my 4th graders can go to recess, I'll be fine. But we haven't had it for 2 days. So it's been kind of rough.
Oh, it'll be a weird year. We'll have like a hurricane in February or something. I don't know. It'll be.
Oh, gosh.
But anyways, so reach out if you want cool rat snakes that
Sure.
like 5 people have heard of. Go talk to them.
That's
They're
it.
awesome rat snakes.
Check out Lil Shop of Horrors.
Lils. There's an S there.
I said that.
No, you said
Lil's.
Lil.
No,
Lil.
I did not.
Oh.
I said Lil's.
Lils.
Shop
Of
of Horrors.
Yeah. God, that's
Shush it.
yeah.
VivTech. Check out VivTech for all
VivTech.
your light
I'm
bulb
just thinking,
needs.
Lewis, you gotta do something about that name. not
Code.
Lils.
He said earlier he said that somebody wrote a check to him the other day and it was actually Little Shop of Horrors.
I mean, could he cash it?
I don't know.
I bet he could
I
cash it.
didn't think to ask if he could cash it. I don't know. We'll have to message him and find out.
Yeah, check out VivTech for all your LED bulbs and now for your my brain just went blank again on what the bulb is. I don't use halogen. I think it's halogen. It's halogen bulbs. I don't know. I use ceramic heat emitters and I have snakes. I have like 4 lizards. Yeah, 4 lizards. So but check out VivTech, use code Gumbo22, get 15% off on all of your VivTech products. Also check out Colossal Constrictors, our friends who do our giveaways. Check out our giveaway that we're going to have this month. We'll have that posted within a day or so. I'll have the post up, not the
I was
blanket.
about to say the blanket will get made this weekend because we have a 3-day weekend.
Also, last week's episode will probably get put out tonight because life happens and I didn't get it put out, but it's fine. So it'll get put out tonight.
I'm gonna start setting a reminder on my phone to send you upstairs to do the podcast.
It still won't happen. It's all the way upstairs. I come upstairs, I go to the snake room, and then once I'm done, I'm back downstairs. And
There you go.
I hate having stairs. This whole having stairs thing sucks.
Yeah.
If y'all wait around just a second, everybody else, we will see y'all next week with I haven't figured that one out yet, but we'll see y'all next week. Good night. Thank y'all for listening.
Have a
Thanks.
good one.
Bye.
Thanks for having us.